Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council. Mayor Teresa Tomlinson. City Manager Isaiah Hughley. Pops Barnes, District 1. Glenn Davis, District 2. Bruce Huff, District 3. Evelyn Turner Pugh, Mayor Pro Tem and District 4. Mike Baker, District 5. Gary Allen, District 6. Mimi Woodson, District 7. Walker Garrett, District 8. Judy Thomas, Post 9 at-large Counselor. Connie Washington, Clerk of Council. And City Attorney, Clifton Fay. Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council.
Everyone, and welcome to the April 24th meeting of the Columbus City Council. We're so glad to have you with us. You're going to see your government at work today. A lot of good government. So today's the day that we drop the budget. It's the proposed budget for 2019. And so there'll be a lot of information, but also a lot more information you can access a little later. We've got a very full agenda, and as you all know, we so appreciate when people tell us that they're praying for us, because when you're in public service, you need all the prayer you can get. And so that's a segue to invite one of our friends here up. We have Pastor Seth Hahn from Grace Baptist Church, who's going to provide the invocation. Good evening.
Let's pray together. Dear Lord Jesus, we thank you so much for the privilege to be here tonight. I thank you, Lord, for what we get to see in practice tonight, the freedom that we have in our country. And I thank you for the men and women of our armed forces who have served, that we might have that freedom. And I thank you just so much for that. I pray that you'd bless the events tonight, that you'd be with our city officials, our mayor, and our councilmen and women, that you would just grant them your wisdom as they make decisions and to give them discernment. I think of the verse in James that said, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. So I pray, Lord, that you just be with them, give them your wisdom, give them discernment in the decisions that they make as they lead our city. Again, I thank you for the freedom that we have, and I especially thank you for your son Jesus, for his life, his death on Calvary, and his resurrection. Lord, we love you, and we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Pastor Hahn, thank you so very much. And for anyone interested in the faith community, we do open it up for people of all faiths to provide invocation. You can simply contact the mayor's office, and we will see to it that you get on the agenda. So, Grace Baptist Church is serving in so many different ways, and they're going to help us out also with the pledge. We have Grace Christian School and Administrator Brian McDonald. So if you all would come forward here to the clerk's office, the clerk's desk, and we've got a couple of microphones for you, and as they assemble, if you all would stand and prepared for them to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. Wow, you guys were really, really good. So we want to make sure that we get to meet you. If you would, as the microphone's passed around, state your name and how old you are. What's your name? What's your name?
This is Elise.
And how old are you, Elise?
She is 4 years old.
All right.
Go ahead.
Haley.
All right.
6.
Okay.
Nariah.
And how old are you?
4.
Excellent.
Kenley, 6. Jalea, 5. Aaliyah, 6.
What's your name? What's your name?
Jacob.
And how old are you?
Wait, about this.
About, no, yeah. That's really good. Really good.
Evelyn, 6. Bo, 5.
All right. You want to pass it right next to you there?
Travius, 13.
Noah, 11.
Will, 11.
Kayla, 11. Lana, 10. Elle, 10. Sarah, 10 years old. Samuel, 5. Audrey, 4. Isabella, 9. Carrington, 8. Addison, 7. Hayden, 10. Stevie, 10.
I think we may have one more in the back. Did we get you? Did everybody get to say their name and how old they are? Okay, fantastic. Now, what about other members of the Grace Christian School family, parents, friends, supporters, or of the church? Why don't you stand up? Show us that you're here. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Would you like to say anything?
Well, this is Grace Christian School. Our mission is to honor Jesus Christ by partnering with parents to educate the next generation of Christian leaders. We appreciate all you do for Columbus and all you do for Grace Christian School. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the practice that went into that. Let's give them another round of applause.
Come on, everybody, turn around. Come on. Here, come right back here. Go follow that line there. Can't run off.
All right, well, as I said a little earlier, today is the day that under our charter and the state law, the mayor, who's the chief executive of this jurisdiction, provides a recommended budget to the legislators, the councilors, and then that budget is reviewed by them. There are weeks of hearings, hours and hours of hearings, where people come forward, department heads, elected office holders, and they pitch different ideas. They want other things. And the counselors have the opportunity to hear that full story and presentation of all the circumstances, ask plenty of questions, and then in the end, they vote on a final adopted budget. And that's what we proceed under. To tell you a little bit about this budget, and I'm just going to hit the high notes because this has been posted online at 5:30, so you can go at columbusga.org and access this letter and the exhibits that are attached to it. This is basically an opportunity for me to just hit the high points because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of pages that comprise the supporting data, the charts, the graphs, all of the information that makes up the information of our budget. We do break it down by department and by office in great detail, line item budgeting, so you can dig as deep as you want. Tonight, as I said, I'm just going to orally point out a few things and then hope that you will go and read the mayor's proposed budget online. It's only 18 pages, and that means there's a lot of graphs in it, so really, it won't take that long. Our budget this year is a $274.4 million budget. That's up 2.4% from last year. However, it's still significantly below our budget in FY 2011. So that what that tells you is we're still having rather stagnant growth, and we're doing a great job at budget management as we are plodding through that rather stagnant growth, and again, the continuing effects of coming out of this recession and the recovery from the recession. Our property tax digest, we estimate, will increase by 2%. That's pretty modest, but nevertheless, that's better than we have seen in some of the years of the recession when it went as low as negative 0.5. So there's a chart in the mayor's budget letter that tells you the specific types of revenue we receive and whether those revenues are up or are projected to be up or down this year, and what that difference is. So we're looking at about a $2.9 million increase in general revenues coming in, but it's worth looking at the chart because it may surprise you what's up and what's down. But we have to take all of those different pots of revenue and combine them, of course, to come up with the monies we spend in the general fund. For our hardworking employees, we're going to be providing a 1.5% raise to full-time employees in August of 2018, and a 0.5% cost of living adjustment also in August of 2019. We will be operating under this recommended budget with 63.94 days in reserve, so effectively 64 days of reserve, which is above our minimum level. So that's good news, and we continue to improve on that front through fiscal prudence and discipline. The raise for full-time employees and the COLA that I mentioned a moment ago will cost $1.9 million. So again, it's in desperate need as we have had trouble keeping up with our wage levels during this long period. But you can also see on pages 4 and 5 a particularized chart by year of the pay increases we have given to our employees, and also our police department, where we instituted broad-scale pay reform. Just to give you the summary of that, over the last 7 years, and including this budget, so 8 years, we will be looking at a pay increase for our general government employees of 13%, and for those in the Columbus Police Department between 15 and 21% in those 8 years. This budget does not include the pay reform that had been mentioned at prior meetings. We held several employee forums and also sent out emails to all of our employees. And actually, the structured, systematic pay reform that was being proposed met with a fairly tepid reception. And so until I think we have a little bit more discussion on what I've laid out in this letter as being a critical need for a systematic minimum pay grid, there's really no need to bring it forth to council in a budget. The employees have to want it after all, or there's not much sense in us making those types of dramatic decisions. I would say that we have a culture, which isn't, I guess, unlike a lot of organizations, where our employees are used to raises and COLAs and not system-wide pay adjustments. However, that tends to put the budgeting for raises and COLAs last. So what you tend to do is budget for all the stuff you need, and then whatever's left over, if there's anything left over, goes to wage adjustments. That is a classic way to always be behind on wage adjustments. And so what I have suggested that hopefully this council and the next administration will consider in the future is, again, some system-wide minimum pay grid so that we can actually keep up at a very minimum level with wage growth around the country and in this region. And I also have suggested that there's, in my opinion, no need to invest in any further pay studies until we come up with some systematic way of funding it, because otherwise it's just a really wonderful chart to look at if it's not being funded. It does provide us some guidance, but it just becomes a constant reminder of how far off the mark we are if we're not finding a regular way to nurse that structure. We also have recommended adjustments for police hiring competitiveness, and you all will probably be very interested in the comparative study we've done with about a dozen other jurisdictions. Just so you know, we regularly, every year, we monitor our hiring level of police salary against other comparable districts, and some districts that frankly aren't comparable at all, like Atlanta and much larger jurisdictions. And we compare quite favorably. And so do take a look at that chart. Again, we update that every single year. Starting salary for a high school degree only for the police department is $39,491. This budget proposes an adjustment in that hiring a minimum for a high school degree to $40,401. And I also want to say for those who are still at the lower levels of the police department, like for instance the corporals, which are the next step up from the officers, when we do adjust the hiring level, we also look to see whether those new hires are butting up against somebody who has been here for a while, and we make those adjustments, just so you know. Sometimes there's some misinformation about that. So just as we've done in the past, as we adjust these new hiring rates, then we, of course, make some other adjustments so that people that have been with us for a while are also moved out. So in summary, if you come to work for the Columbus Police Department, should this budget be adopted, you will, with a high school degree, receive $40,401. With an associate's degree, $41,333. With a bachelor's degree, $42,581, and with a master's, $43,830. That's also, we have a signing bonus of $2,000. We have other sorts of increment incentives, such as being post-certified with another department, military service, and other such things. We have accepted the sheriff's recommendation for a pay adjustment related to her deputies. This was something that she funded through liquidating existing positions that she had, which made the pay increases budget neutral in this particular budget. We also reinstated to the sheriff's office some $265,000 in operational monies that we had moved 2 or 3 years ago to fund the Rapid Resolution Program. But we are still able to continue the funding of the Rapid Resolution Program, which has been successful, and we will have an update later on in the budget hearing process. We are having to make further adjustments to our defined pension plan. As you all know, the cost of a defined pension plan is significant, but it's well worth it as we provide a specific amount, 60% of a 5-year average of our retiring employees' pay for the rest of their life. That costs quite a bit of money, particularly with the increased longevity in our country. And so we had to make some systemic changes to our pension plan. We used to have an unfunded liability of over 25%. Since our pension reform in 2013, we now have only a 4.5% unfunded liability, which is tremendous progress. We have saved the taxpayers $18.2 million since the reform, and we are on a 10-year track to save $55 million due to the pension reform. I can say due to the city's support of that pension reform is frankly one of the only reasons we were able to make it out of the recession without some pretty dramatic financial circumstances. But we do need to continue to nurse the health of this pension plan, and so this year we are proposing that we switch to the generational mortality approach so that we can make certain that that pension fund is in good shape for our hardworking employees into the future, and also make certain that we stay up with best practices, accounting process for public entities. We certainly do not want to have an audit finding that we are out of conformity with the governmental accounting standards. And so this will allow us to continue to be ahead of the curve in that regard. That adjustment, however, will cost us $1.7 million this year and in years in the future. I also lay out several charts provided by our benefits manager related to how we have gotten our health care costs under control at the city. There still is obviously some increases in health care costs. Those are largely related to increasing trends nationally, and also a reduction of the number of employees who are participating in our health care plan. So there's just fewer people to share the cost. However, that being said, there was a time that when we were in double-digit increases for claims, and we are self-insured, so this is not falling on the shoulders of any insurance company. This is falling on your shoulders as taxpayers. But we save millions of dollars being self-insured. And so just to give you a little sense of some of the progress we've made with our health care reform over the past few years, we have seen a stable increase of 1.8% from 2015 to 2016 and a 0.4% increase in medical claims from 2016 to 2017, and those are rates that many employers would like to have. We also have had a 39% decrease in our pharmaceutical costs, and that's related to this past year, and that is related to the fact that our benefits manager and our human resources director, Retha Hollowell, recommended that we put out an RFP and change our prescription drug company, and that has been quite successful, as you can see. So in short, if we were to take the cost per employee and distribute out the cost of this plan, there would be a 7.7% increase in the health care plan to our employees and to the amount we'd have to budget per employee. However, that amount last year was 5.9%, so it's up a little bit this year. But last year we were able to make some plan adjustments that were not overly impactful to our employees' use of their health care plan and allowed them to see a net zero increase personally. And so we always are looking for innovative ways to tweak the plan to allow for the type of health care coverage the employees need, but at the same time reduce these costs so that their earnings go even further. So this year what we're proposing is that we can provide the same level of health care we provided last year without any cost increase to our employees, without any cost increase to the taxpayers from us having to budget more to carry our share of that 70-30 split. And the way we propose to do that is a prescription change, which would discontinue the coverage of all medications that are sold over the counter, so that you'd have to go down the aisle instead of to the pharmacist to get what you need in those instances, and that the patient pays the difference of the cost share with dispense as written prescriptions. And so there are going to be a lot of employees having to consider how that impacts them, but we believe that that is the least impactful way to make plan adjustments that would help cover these the 7.7% increase. The other thing that we will be proposing is that in order to prevent the 7.7% increase, that the employee opt into a wellness participation. That's for their sake, to improve their health care, to improve their personal longevity, and also to reduce our cost and their cost of health care. And that wellness participation will require that each employee complete a tobacco affidavit and complete tobacco cessation classes for those who do choose to smoke, that the participant complete a biometric screening and an online healthcare assessment, and that if deemed, quote, at high risk, which basically means high blood pressure, diabetes, prediabetes, participate in approximately 12 weeks of health coaching. If those items are met and accepted by council as part of our health care plan, then there will be no increase for the current level of health care costs this year. There are two other options that are set out in the budget letter. I won't go over them in detail, but basically one would require a 7.3% increase per employee, and the other would require a 6.1 increase. So clearly the no-cost increase, I believe, will be preferred by the employees and the taxpayers. We also have learned that our construction and demolition waste landfill is at its maximum capacity. We tried to do some things, but at this point there's just no getting around the fact that we're going to have to expand that landfill, and that's going to have an $855,000 impact to us. So where does that money come from? We think through the great work of our professionals in our integrated waste system that we can take some operational monies and for 1 year forego the purpose for which they're otherwise budgeted and shift them to pay for some of that expansion, which of course is required by Environmental Protection Agency and the Georgia environmental agencies as well. And we also are proposing a $1 increase in the garbage fee to $18. That's still drastically below what the actual cost of our garbage pickup is, including recycling and household waste and yard waste pickup. Which we have at other times estimated to be anywhere from $23 to $26 dollars per household, but we're nowhere near that. This would again bring the monthly fee to $18 per household. We would take those monies generated by the dollar increase and we would pay for the rest of the cost to expand the landfill, which would give us many years of usage out of that expansion. Then we would take the remaining monies and buy 6 new garbage trucks. You all may remember some of the dramatic budget hearing testimony of the horrendous state of our garbage trucks, and we bought some 29 garbage trucks last year, but I believe there were 56 total that needed to be replaced, so we can make some more progress towards those garbage trucks that are in need way over their life and replace those. All right, so now we get down to new positions. Almost every department feels that they need new positions or that they can reap great benefit by reclassing positions, which usually have a increasing budgetary effect. And so what I do as mayor in a recommended budget, you obviously cannot service everybody's needs. There's just not enough money. So we sort of have a rule that we will approve and put in the recommended budget any recommended change that is budget neutral, that the department head feels is necessary for their operation of their department or office, and or that it is critical to the effective and efficient running of that office, which generally means state laws required it, federal laws required the position be made, or we simply cannot service that need without this particular position. So it's a pretty dramatic standard, and we try to employ that. There are some exceptions. Sometimes we'll certainly recommend a position that's not budget neutral if it is an independent fund, meaning it's being funded through other fees of some sort, like the Trade Center is a classic example, and sometimes they run surpluses and they have money to pay for new positions. So you will see the ones that we've recommended laid out in a chart that spans over 3 pages, but there are plenty of other options, plenty of other valid requests, and those requests will be coming to councilors to determine by making their legislative decision how that finite resources will be split among the many requests that will be brought to them. You all will remember some years back we approved a 1 penny sales tax, 70% of which would be used for public safety, 30% would be used for infrastructure. This year, the OLOST funds will be $33.6 million for FY19. That's the projected amount. As I said, 70% of that, or $23.6 million, goes to public safety, and some $10 million will be going to infrastructure. Of the $23.6 million for public safety, $21.54 million of that is already committed. That's through things such as the personnel decisions to hire more officers, more deputies, more correctional officers, whatever it may be, and those are locked in budgeted positions. So we have to appropriate those monies, and that is $21.5 million. Obviously, that then greatly reduces what's, quote, left. And so we have to then take what's left, use that for other things such as this proposed $1.5 percent pay raise and 0.5% COLA that will go to just the OLOST positions. So that's $138,000. The replacement of our court management system, which you can read a little bit more about, but is a critical system that supports public safety and the courts, and is in dire need of being replaced. And also the replacement of the jail generator, which is again a critical need. Once we remove that, those sums for those purposes, then there's $343,000 left over to be distributed for capital between our public safety departments, and you can see how it is then distributed. A lot of people say, how in the world did you come up with those monies? It is an equation, basically, based on how many positions are in those departments, what their budget already is, and then, of course, they list out certain priorities that they want, and we try to fund those things in a proportion. So with that, those are the highlights. I want to thank Eric Jackson in my office who helped pull this together. It takes a lot of work, as you can imagine. Certainly the city manager who leads the process, together with our deputy city manager, Pam Hodge, and our other deputy city manager, Lisa Goodwin, Angelica Alexander, who heads up our finance department, and every single one of our department heads and office holders. You guys do a tremendous job, and we're so appreciative for you all coming to the table in a responsible, respectful manner that allows us to come close to balancing our budget. So this is your proposed FY 2019 balanced budget for the City of Columbus and for Council's consideration. I thank you for your attention. Are there any questions off the bat? I know we're about to go into weeks of things, but yes, Councilor Baker. Can you turn on Councilor Baker's mic, please?
The finance director would briefly list out the meeting schedule.
Yes, thank you. Angelica?
I was on my way, Councilor Baker. So as far as the budget review schedule for FY19, the first set of budget review sessions are set to start at 2 p.m., which is before the proclamation meeting on May 1st. What we'll do is go over an overview. I'll provide a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, just giving a detailed overview of the budget. As well as our benefits consultant, Shaw Hankins, will be here on May 1st to give their presentation concerning health care. We'll also, the next meeting will be May 8th, which will be immediately following the council meeting. That is set to start at 1, of course. We'll try to keep the council meeting schedule light so that we can start those meetings on time. Again, on the agenda for that day is just department and agency presentations. On the May 15th, starting at 9 a.m., and that is scheduled to run until 2 p.m., there's a special call budget hearing, again, for department presentations. On May 22nd, we are set to start our budget review meetings at 1 p.m., and that is scheduled to go until 4 p.m. This is, again, immediately following the regular scheduled council meeting. We'll obviously try to keep that day light. We'll have basically very few, very limited department presentations, and we'll mostly go over the add-delete list on that particular day. We'll advertise the budget for FY19 on May 29th, as well as have our taxpayer Bill of Rights hearings. The first one is set to start at 9 a.m. on June 5th. And then 6 p.m. Also on June 5th is the second meeting for our Taxpayer Bill of Rights. We'll also be reading the first reading of our budget ordinance on June 5th. Again, that is incorporating any changes made to the mayor proposed budget from the add-delete list. Council also has the discretion to make changes to the budget on first reading as well. And then on June 12th at 9 a.m., we have a regular scheduled council meeting. This will be our second hearing for our Taxpayer Bill of Rights, our third hearing for our Taxpayer Bill of Rights, and the second reading of our budget ordinance, the first reading of our millage ordinance. June 19th at 9 a.m. is a special call meeting to vote the second reading of our millage ordinance.
All right. Thank you, Angelica. And yes, we have Counselor Thomas.
Ms. Alexander, I have a couple of requests. Would you, each of these meetings, send to us an email telling us which departments or agencies are going to be presenting on which date, so we can be sure that we have their information in mind as we come to those meetings?
Okay.
And the other question that I have, on the Taxpayer Bill of Rights public hearing, if a taxpayer wants to participate in that, do they need to get on an agenda, or do they just show up, or what is the process?
They would just show up. We will have a sign-in sheet for those hearings, particularly the one at 9 a.m. on June 5th, but they would just show up. And we can address any questions or concerns they may have at that time.
Okay, so it's not like the public agenda, they just show up and can
That's correct.
speak? Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Anything else? I did want to state, I was just reminded that the budget, as I said, is online for your review. It's also on the social media pages of the mayor's office. And so again, thank you for your attention. Thank you, Angelica. All right. Moving on, we have our internal auditor, John Redmond, who is here this evening. John.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council, Mr. Manager, Mr. Attorney. Tonight, I would like to request authorization for what I'm going to call an audit, but it's really not an audit. It's an audit or a review of a process. You may recall over the last several years, we've implemented a new IAS World tax system. That actually took effect earlier this past year. We've also done some things differently within the council realm. Over the last year or so, you all have passed and approved 7 different tax allocation districts, most recently one about a month or so ago. And I've had a number of questions, several from councilors and several from staff members, as to our readiness for reporting on that TAD information as we go forward. And I know that part of that will also impact our annual financial report that is reviewed by our external auditor. So what I would like to do is request your indulgence for doing a review of that process of making sure that the data for all the parcels in each one of the TADs is properly tagged and denoted, so that when it's time to pull that information, then we will have a reporting system in place that will extract it for us in an orderly fashion. The other thing is, many years down the road, as we get to the end of these TADs, we need to have a process for reviewing the success or lack of success of a particular TAD. We need to know what works and what doesn't work. And I thought it would be proactive to go ahead and work with these people as we get started on this, because really right now there's nobody to be audited, no departments, no individual. I do appreciate Ms. Middleton, and I believe Commissioner Huff is here tonight, and I thank them for their involvement and attention, but there's nobody here to be audited at this point, because we really don't have any changes at this stage to do. But I think it would be proactive to go ahead and make sure we have a reporting capability and evaluation process set up and in place. And I would ask.
We've got a motion and second to approve a request. And is there any discussion related to this? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please state aye. Are there any opposed? Great, thank you. Thank you, John. Appreciate you and Elizabeth and all your hard work. And thank you, Commissioner Huff, and also to Betty Middleton. We appreciate all you guys do.
Great work. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, we have the minutes from our April 10th, 2018 council meeting that has been distributed for review. Did anybody have any changes? We've got a motion that the minutes be received. Is there a second? All those in favor, please state aye. Aye. Great, the minutes are approved, and we head into the city attorney's agenda. Mr. Fay.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have some zoning public hearings up first. First zoning matter is property at 1841 Warm Springs Road. It's going from single-family residential to general commercial. Therapeutic massage business, Michelle Kroll is the applicant. Is Ms. Kroll here? Okay, anybody here on behalf of Ms. Kroll? All right. Well, we may have, it's ready for a vote, Mayor. This is a second reading.
Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second? A second. All those, any discussion, excuse me. All right, seeing none, please record your votes electronically. And the item, did I get everybody? I've only got 8. Oh, yes, we did. Okay, and it does pass.
All right, thank you. The next one that'll be up for a vote is 18th Street. It's going to Mill Restoration District. This is the City Mills petition. It's ready for action.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this item? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please state aye. Oh, excuse me. Please record your votes electronically. I'm sorry. Thank you all. It
Yeah, that
passes.
passed. Third item is the property at 3202 Edgewood Road. This is the proposed use where the Shrine Club facility is, club lodge, banquet facility, and wireless communication facility. It's recommended for conditional approval.
Okay, we've got folks in line to speak. Does anybody want to put a motion, or we want to speak first? All right, let's go ahead and have conversation. We've got Councilor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor. And this is one of those difficult situations where there's been a lot of confusion. I've been talk about if the property is rezoned, what could happen, or not rezoned, and what could happen, and all those type of scenarios. Almost too many to keep in mind. But my concern rests with the neighborhood. It's very, very dense. Single-family residential always has been. Even our land use maps, future land use maps, have every foot of that property over there is single-family residential. And it it does engulf, because I've lived just around the corner from there my whole life, it engulfs the lodge there. It's recessed back up into the neighborhood. And there's a real concern from the neighbors there of any change there, the impact could have on the neighborhood. And since it's linked to by definition in here to the of course, the cell tower usage, that's, as we know, are always controversial, but especially in a single-family neighborhood like that. The 150-foot tower, that's probably the lowest point in that whole area. And to try to mitigate that with a tower of that size, I just think is beyond reason. This is on East Lindsay. There's a tower on East Lindsay, just a few blocks north. We just approved the tower northeast up and around the corner on College and University. Those are high elevation sites, commercial corridors, commercial lots, and I supported it. We supported that. So we have a history of being reasonable about tower sites in that area. This is all in this very, very close proximity to each other. So I know the neighbors are concerned about it, and whether it's concern about property values, about quality of life, aesthetics, all the issues are there. Any change and any impact that could come with changing this property would have on to the neighbors. Because I don't think I've ever seen 56 notifications to be sent out before. That's how dense this area is, and that's how easy it could impact many, many homes in that area. So just for a multitude of reasons, and no problem with the Shrine Club, and it was Moose Lodge before that. As is, that they've been good neighbors. Not criticizing them at all. I certainly understand. But, my concern is a risk to the neighborhood, and for all the factors that are present, I just think it's there. So my request is for denial.
Okay. We've got, I'll accept that as a motion to deny, and then we've got Mayor Pro Tem Evelyn Pugh. Okay, thank you.
If you look at my record consistently throughout voting for towers, cell towers, I just take issue with cell towers located in the residential properties. I always have. I fought them in my district, although I didn't win. But I just have a problem with them being that close to residential properties.
All right, we've got a motion and second for denial. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, you may record your votes electronically. Excuse me, the green is to approve the motion to deny. The red would be, is to deny the petition, right. Okay, and the motion does fail.
All right. Mr. Porterchef, that petition has been denied. All right, the next item, several, are public zoning hearings. The first one is the Wright Wade petition for 3784 Graham Way. I understood Mr. Wade may be disabled tonight and can't be here now. We'll let anybody that's here that wants to be heard come on up, but is anybody here on the Graham Way petition that wants to be heard tonight? And what we've had done, I think, in past meeting, Mayor, was delay it if the applicant wasn't here, but
Okay.
what's the pleasure of council on that?
Okay, we've got Counselor Baker.
That's my district. I would prefer to delay or continue the first reading, if that's possible.
Okay. Do we need a vote on that, Mr. City Attorney, or can we simply take a request of the?
No, with no objection, we'll just bring it back on first reading.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank y'all, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Jones. The next zoning item, Mayor, is .32 acres at 4907.
I'm sorry, Mr. City Attorney, I hate to interrupt you, but the Mayor Pro Tem pointed out, should we ask if there's anybody here against it since they've come?
Sure, either way. On the Graham Way petition, anybody want to be heard for or against? Don't see any hands.
Okay.
All right. This is the 4907, 4909 11th Avenue parcel. It's zoned single-family R4 currently, proposed residential multifamily. Mr. Fox is the applicant. He is here. Let's see if anybody else wants to be heard in opposition. Any other persons want to speak? This is the 11th Avenue petition. Any questions of council? All right, Mr. Fox, you don't have to come up. We'll vote on that in the next meeting, 2 weeks, Ms. Clerk? Okay. That'll be 2 weeks from today. Then our last item is 7675, 7697 Kane Boulevard. Mr. Mize is here for the applicant. Proposed residential office for multifamily residential. Mr. Mize, any questions around the table? Anybody in the audience want to be heard?
Move into multifamily.
It's going from general commercial to RO residential office, proposed use multifamily, is that correct? Okay. All right, don't see any hands. We'll vote on that in 2 weeks. Thank you for being here, Mr. Mize. The Edgewood Road special exception is a moot point, I think, at this juncture, number 7. So, Mayor, we won't take any action on number 7.
Okay.
And we need an executive session at the end, please, Mayor, on a personnel matter.
Okay,
That's all we have listed.
great, thank you. All right, we're going into public agenda. And we'd like to call forward Ms. Susan Gallagher, who's representing New Horizons Behavioral Health. She would like to speak to us about Mental Health Awareness Month. Hello, Ms. Gallagher, how are you?
Good evening, how are you? Hello, everybody, how are y'all doing this evening? Each year, many of our fellow citizens, family members, friends, loved ones, co-workers, peers, children, nieces, and nephews face the reality of living with mental illness. During May, New Horizons Behavioral Health, along with the rest of the country, raise awareness for people living with mental illness. May is National Mental Health Awareness Month. Each year we fight stigma, provide support, educate the public, and advocate for people with mental illness and their families. Again, May is nationally recognized as Mental Health Awareness Month, with May 6th through 12th celebrated as Children's Mental Health Awareness Week. New Horizons Behavioral Health is hosting the second annual Children's Mental Health Symposium at the Columbus Regional Library on Friday, May 11th, to celebrate and recognize Children's Mental Health Awareness Week. The symposium theme this year ties along with the national theme of trauma-informed approach to care. What we hope to do is raise awareness that the question shouldn't be what's wrong with you, but what has happened to you. So that people that have lived with trauma in their life, the trauma is treated, not the individual and their circumstances. We seek to form a stronger system of care that transforms children from victims to resilient survivors. Topics of this symposium include environmental trauma, such as food instability. I mean, that's a trauma if a child doesn't know if they're having a next meal. Financial insecurity, if the family has their power turned off or the water turned off. Domestic violence, the child may not be the direct recipient of violence, but if you see a parent at the breakfast table with a black eye or bruises, that's a trauma to the child. We want to encourage people to have the proper responses to trauma, how to handle trauma. And we also want to help professionals in the field of mental health and social services, how they can deal with compassion fatigue. Because when you hear stories all the time of trauma in a family, it can cause burnout for you too. So I'd like to invite the community to the event. It's at the Columbus Regional Library on Friday, May 11th. The symposium begins at 10 a.m. and we should have it run through about 3 p.m. It's a free event open to the public. We encourage parents, social service workers, case managers, physicians, educators, guidance counselors to come. We've got a great agenda lined up. You can find out more about the event at our website, www.nhbh.org, or you can call 706-596-5517, and you can always check us out on Facebook. It's listed as an event there. And again, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and the week of May 6th through 12th is Children's Mental Health Awareness. And I want you all to remember that mental health does matter. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. We appreciate what you do. New Horizons is such a great partner for us, so
Thank you, ma'am.
take that message back to all our friends there.
Will do. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Next we have Miss Geraldine Goodman. Hello there. Miss Goodman would like to speak with us about water bottles, air conditioning, and traffic laws. If you would, state your name, please, and your address.
My name is Geraldine Goodman, 5028 Dodge Drive, Columbus, Georgia. I want to thank you so very much for letting me be here this afternoon. It's really on making, enforcing, and understanding laws from an old person's point of view. That's mine. Number one is the water bottle. I went to the recorder's court the other day, and I could not take my water bottle inside. And because you see, old people need water. We need water in churches, and because of our age. So we really need to be able to drink water wherever we go. So this is one of the things. And also in recorder's coat, I like to froze to death because I had on my big coat and people were standing there. So maybe we could just take the air conditioner and go kind of between, instead of having it freezing where the young people are hot and the old people, we are cold, and we need a kind of a medium range. And the next thing is handrails on steps on public buildings and churches and so forth, because I know we have the where the wheelchairs can go up, but when we go up steps, we need to be able to hold so we can keep our balance. Because as we get older, our balance become worse. And the other thing is about laws about driving. And I understand about staying in that right lane, but have you ever been out there when there's a traffic? You cannot get into the left lane to turn because people are not courteous. And it's not only for older people, it's for any people. Sometimes you have to go a whole block or so just to make a right turn and to come back to the left turn to get on the right side. So will you kind of consider this law, please? And the next thing is on a bathroom. I was at the Y where I go to exercise, and a man came into the women's restroom because the sign is on the side. But as we get older, we need big signs on the doors. And we would like for, maybe some organization would do that, you know, and put the signs on the door, because sometimes it's rather confusing, you know, on the side. And then these pictures with a man and a woman, sometimes they are confusing. So we really need the signs on the door. And the other thing is the handicap parking. And I would just like to tell old people, if you can go to the Y and if you can go to the mall, why are you using handicap parking when people who really need those parking spaces should use them? And I can see it if you need them, but some of you get those parking stickers and you just misuse them. So this is from an old person's point of view, just to come bring it to you and to the public. Maybe when you are making laws, will you please include some old people on your committees and get their point of view? Because we are out there every day and we are part of this community and we are becoming more and more. So please, we are part of your community. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Goodman. And you came to the right place. We've got, for almost all those things, we've got the right people in the room that heard your thoughts. We've got a few folks that want to speak to it. We've got Counselor Thomas.
Ms. Goodman, I did want to say to you that your concerns about the Recorder's Court, it just so happens that the Chief Judge of Recorder's Court and the Chief Clerk of Recorder's Court are sitting in the audience tonight, and they heard what you said, and they're going to take that into consideration, right? So thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. You're absolutely right about the air conditioning. The problem is I sit there and freeze, and he sits there fanning, you know, the same place. But we do appreciate you coming and bringing these items to our attention. And old folks are on the, help making those laws.
Speak for yourself. I am. I am too. All right, let's see, we've got Counselor Barnes would like to speak to.
I just want to, as a senior citizen, I just want to thank you for your comments, because your comments are on point, both for the things that we need to improve, and also, you want to know something? What I see in the community and what I see on our boards, we do need to have more elderly people, because you see, when you get beyond 60 and when you get beyond 70, you have a wealth of information just from living life. So I want to thank you for that, and we need to pay attention to start putting more senior citizens on some of these boards. Thank you so much for your comments.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, I accidentally skipped over someone, so I apologize. I just somehow missed it. So Miss Bernetta Haynes would like to speak to us. She's representing Energy Georgia Watch, and she wants to talk to us about the energy efficiency for all of Georgia. Ms. Haynes, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no worries at all.
I don't know what I was looking at, but we're glad to have you. And if you would just state your name and give an address, please.
Hi, my name is Bernita Haynes. The address is 55 Marietta Street, Southwest, Suite 903, Atlanta, Georgia. I'm very happy to be here. This is my first time at your guys' city council meeting, and I was gushing about the facility earlier, because ours in Atlanta is a little busted. However, I want to go ahead and just give you a very quick overview of an event that is coming to Columbus, May 5th, actually, so next weekend on Cinco de Mayo, called an Energy Equity Forum. And it's essentially a replica of an event that we did of the same name down in Camilla, Georgia, in October that happened to be really successful. We were very excited about how successful it was. We planned this event, Georgia Watch, which I'll give you a very quick spiel about in just a moment here. But we planned this event in conjunction with Energy Efficiency for All Georgia partners. That includes South Face, as well as Partnership for Southern Equity and other Georgia organizations, and some national organizations like National Housing Trust, which focuses on affordable housing. At that event in Camilla, we actually worked with the Community Action Agency down in that area, which is very crucial as we're planning these energy equity events, because community action agencies do a lot of work helping folks afford their utility bills. The purpose of the Energy Equity Forum in Camilla and here is to actually get residents, low-income consumers, and residents in the room, as well as utility leaders, policymakers, community leaders, all in the room together to learn about some very tangible, practical ways to save money on your utility bills and manage your utility bills, programs available to help you manage your utility bills, things of that nature, and to think a little bit more broadly about some of the programs that we could be thinking about creating to help people manage their utility bills. At Georgia Watch, we are interested in energy affordability because we see it as part of the whole package that a lot of low-income folks and seniors in particular, as Ms. Geraldine indicated, are dealing with on a day-to-day basis because they often live in very old homes and cannot afford the energy that they're using most of the time. At Georgia Watch, we work across 4 project areas: energy affordability, healthcare access and affordability, access to civil justice, as well as financial planning and protection. Now, as you can imagine, all the people that experience negative impacts in those areas tend to be the same folks, low-income seniors. I'm the Director of Equity and Access at Georgia Watch, so part of what I do is create nifty resources for consumers to help them sort of take control of their own financial situation. But I also help with my colleagues in terms of advocating on behalf of Georgia consumers at the legislature. And I do community events like the Energy Equity Forum. I do have a few flyers for those who are interested. I was not sure how many to print out, but nonetheless, I have about 15 that I will leave here with you. This other little package I have here is just sort of a little overview of Georgia Watch, what we do. We are a very tiny nonprofit, 4 of us, that's it. And we depend on some really awesome interns. Most people, when I tell them that there's only 4 of us, they are stunned because of the enormity of the work that we do and how much we actually do. But we're a tiny little nonprofit, nonpartisan. We work across the aisle with all party members on all kinds of issues. We are very issue-centered. But I am not going to bore you much longer. I just wanted to give you a very quick rundown about the Energy Equity Forum in Georgia Watch. Again, extra information about the event is here on this flyer. It is a free event open to the general public, as noted. Registration information is on the flyer. You can also find it on our website at georgiawatch.org. And you can also find my contact information on that site as well. I am really eager to see some of you next Saturday, if you can make it out. It's from 10 to 3 p.m. at the River Valley Regional Commission. Great. And I want to thank our local partners that we've been working with to plan that event, United Way of Chattahoochee Valley, as well as Enrichment Services. And Patty over at the River Valley Regional Commission has been very helpful and very just eager to get this event off the ground. So thank you guys for having me here.
Well, thank you for being here, and Patty's awesome. I see her in the back there. We're so glad to have you come down from Atlanta, and we've got a few folks that want to say a few words. We got Councilor Pops Barnes.
Excuse me, ma'am. You did a very good presentation at the River Valley. Would you please again, slowly, let everyone know where it's going to be? I know it's going to be the 5th Cinco de Mayo. at the River Valley, but I'd like for you to...
Yes. Yes, I talk so fast. You really
No,
gotta
that's no problem. I understood.
slow me down.
I just wanted you to be able to get the word out more.
Again, it's the Energy Equity Forum. It's going to be on May 5th at the River Valley Regional Commission from 10 to 3 p.m. We're going to start right on time at 10 and get people out of there at 3. In Camilla, I got folks out of there at 2:58, so I'm on it. So yes, May 5th, River Valley Regional Commission.
Mr. City Manager, can we get that on CCG TV? Because a lot of people do need it. It's a very important topics, the things that you mentioned, and you gave a very good presentation here. You had more time at the River Valley to elaborate more, but I really appreciate what you're doing, and the City Manager will make sure that we will get this on our CCG TV station to get the word out. I will be there. I have it on my calendar, and I got about 4 seniors, my wife and about 4 other individuals that will be coming.
Great, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. And just so you know, we do not intend for it to be a one-off either. I'm actually going back down to Camilla in June for a community empowerment session, which is about medical debt and utility bills. So hopefully it'll happen the same way here in Columbus as we build more relationships. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, we have the Mayor Pro Tem, Evelyn Pugh.
I just want to ditto what Councilor Barnes said. She was real good at our meeting last night, very enthusiastic. And
move to Columbus.
I feel so popular.
She was you can tell she really enjoys her work.
Yeah.
The meaning comes across.
Yeah.
And one of the things, if we can get some flyers to our senior citizen rec centers.
Great. Got it, Mr. City Manager? You have to push a button.
We will either make copies or get some copies from you or from the Regional Commission to place at the rec centers.
Yes.
And I'll have our manager just pull some clips from your talk and just create maybe a 60-second commercial or something.
Absolutely. And you guys have my contact information. You should at this point, but I will definitely leave a card with you too so that we can, definitely chat about that.
Sure, she'll get it from you.
Great.
That would be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right.
I feel so popular.
We have Councilor Bruce Huff.
Ms. Haynes, thank you for taking time to come to Columbus. And I see some people out there I recognize that probably are working with you. So it's good to see you all. If you would, just share a little bit of information about how long you've been doing this and how it's been working in other localities.
So just as a sort of quick overview about myself, I'm actually an attorney of background, but I no longer practice, bless me. But when I was practicing, I focused on energy equity in particular, how to expand affordable energy efficiency to all people. And so what I've been doing at Georgia Watch is creating events just like this, the Energy Equity Forum. As I mentioned, the one in Camilla, that took about 6 months to sort of put together, and we had a capacity of about 55 for that event, and we had 48, 50 people in the room. It was a full room. Folks got there at the beginning. They were there all day. They were very engaged. One great thing from that event that we learned was that folks were having a lot of struggles with the City of Camilla utility and being able to afford their utility bills. And so we got contact information from a couple of residents who were there, and we've been in steady contact with them. I'm hoping to actually get a meeting with the City of Camilla to see how we can help. Maybe they have programs that we can publicize to their residents and customers that they just don't have the bandwidth to publicize. So that's one thing we've been doing. I made great contact with WorkSource Southwest Georgia down in Camilla, and I've been in contact with Melody over there ever since. She's the reason I'm coming back down to Camilla for the community empowerment meeting, which is just going to be about a 3-4 hour meeting all about medical debt, how to manage medical bills and debt, and how to reduce your utility bills. I'll have free giveaways at the Energy Equity Forum as well as at that event. Giveaways being LED bulbs, power strips, things of that nature that can make a real difference in your utility bill. We feel like we've been very successful in building strong relationships and also just getting a sense of what's going on in various areas and how we can actually help entities that already exist, like enrichment services or community action agencies, with publicizing some of what they do and all this kind of thing. We also operate a hotline that I regularly am talking to people on a daily basis, and I've gotten lots of calls from folks who attended the event in Camilla ever since. I've been able to walk them through how to sign up for certain programs and things like this to reduce their utility bills.
Okay. I appreciate you, and for you not understanding how popular you will be. Our meetings will be rerun for the next couple of weeks, so that's why I wanted you to explain so people have time to digest it all.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for coming. So glad to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, I'll give it one more time. One more time, the address is the River Valley Regional Commission. That is at, actually, I forgot the exact address. 710 Front Avenue. There we go.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, next we have Miss Catherine Cunningham, and she is here to talk about a city problem. Miss Cunningham. All right. Good. We'll move on. We've got Miss Audrey Holston Pallamore, who'd like to speak to us about parks and recreation. So ma'am, come forward. If you would just state your name and your address, please.
Good evening. My name is Audrey Holston Palmore. I'm a resident residing in Columbus, Georgia at 1035 Lawyers Lane. Well, based on the information, the direct insight that I had here at the meeting of April the 10th, and recognition of the opinion of several of the elected officials concerning resident of Columbus neighborhood complaint, which led into unsanitary conditions that she experienced, I felt that it would be fitting to inform the Columbus officials, the elected council, and the citizens of Columbus, Georgia, of an unsanitary condition that was experienced by members of my family. I have a prepared statement. I am appearing on today's public agenda because I am seeking answers to my question, why did the Division of Parks and Recreation in this consolidated government fail to honor provisions, accommodations for human race facilities for an outdoor barbecue event honoring a wonderful human being? He is my only grandchild. The funds for the event were presented by a family member who has a certified lifeguarding skills, and previously offered services to the Division of Parks and Recreation here in Columbus, Georgia. The funds were accepted by the officials of the Columbus, Georgia Parks and Recreation Division on March 8th, 2018. The assurance of proper waste removal facilities was given on Friday, March 23rd, 2018. The event was held on Saturday, March 24th, 2018. I want to stress at this time that monies would never have been presented to the Division of Columbus Parks and Recreation if foresight had been presented on the day acceptance of the funds for reservations was permitted. Civilized people were in attendance at the outdoor barbecue event in broad daylight at the public park named Carver Park. It was a weather-perfect spring day. The spirit of the celebration changed from an environment of relaxation and ease to what can only be imagined when we as civilized humans needed to expel waste. Why, is my question. Was there a moment of negligence for even a millimeter of a second for such a basic human condition? I could only hang my head in disbelief. It was a raw, unhealthy, bad, and sad situation. Trust and concern go to the root of this condition. At this time, the disservice is freshly prominent in my thought process. I know that there's a such thing as like when you can gradually forget about things, but a lot of the people that were there have made comments to me like that was really a bad situation y'all had to endure. And a few said some other things that I don't dare to repeat here.
And that's your warning, Ms. Palomar.
Thank you. I'm understanding. I'll be finished in just about 30 seconds. Nothing can take back those moments of memory seeing guests who came from places beyond Columbus, Georgia. Nothing could take away the reactions and the leaving prematurely, seeking refuge or seeking some type of relief for their condition due to a possible oversight or total disregard for healthy provisions or accommodations for a family such as mine, calling Columbus, Georgia, home. Thank you for your attention. I will listen for any questions or comments that you may possibly want to make.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Palomar. We appreciate it.
Will anyone like to make any comments? I mean, there were several comments made April the 10th in regards to the unsanitary conditions.
We've got several people that would like to speak.
Oh, okay.
We've got first, the city manager wants to, are you on, Mr. City Manager?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
You go ahead.
Madam Mayor, let me just say, first of all, that I have had several conversations with Ms. Palmore. It's okay for you to sit down. No, you can stand if you like. But I've had, she's appeared at my office twice, and I did without an appointment, and I did take the time to talk to her both times about her concern. On another occasion, she was directed to the city, deputy city manager, and she spoke to her about her concern. She was also directed to Holly Browder, and she spoke to her. And on a different occasion, the Assistant Director of Parks and Rec, Bessie Glitzen, spoke to her about her concern. And her daughter, not Ms. Palmore, but her daughter, Belcia, rented the Carver Rec Center And I know the Parks and Rec director is here, but, and the restroom at Carver Park had been vandalized, and so it's closed down. And it is my understanding they made her aware that her daughter, that that restroom had been vandalized and was shut down. And of course, the rec center opens on Monday through Friday. And their picnic was scheduled to be from 2 until 4 on the date that she's mentioned. And they did have, it was a birthday party for a 1-year-old.
For my own grandchild.
Yeah, for your grandchild. And it was my understanding they were going to eat about 2:30, and they did eat about 2:30. And I don't know what happened during the 2-hour stretch, but obviously with the restroom having been vandalized and shut down, there were no restroom facilities. And I might add, while, everyone, we'd like to have a restroom facility for them, all of our facilities do not have restrooms. If they go to Rose Hill Ball Field, for example, and rent that for an outing, there is no restroom on site. But I think they understood that that restroom was vandalized before renting it. And so when she filed her concern with Parks and Rec, they refunded them the $50 that they had paid for the facility, and did offer an apology to Belshire Palomore. And I've offered Ms. Palomore on 2 occasions to meet with her daughter, who was the applicant and paid the deposit. When she came to my office on yesterday, I asked her again if she would have her daughter to schedule a meeting with me, as I did the first time we met. And I'd like to talk to the person who rented the facility. Ms. Palomore, Audrey, did not rent the facility. It was her daughter, who's an adult. And I'd really like to have a conversation with the adult who rented the facility, who we've refunded, Parks and Rec refunded them their monies. And so I think Ms. Palomore is looking for, as I understand it from the deputy city manager, she wants someone to write a letter of apology to all who attended, and she wants the city to reimburse her for what they paid for the food, which is my understanding they did eat at the picnic, and simply those that is not available. And the option of paying for your food, you were reimbursed, your daughter was, her deposit, her money. And I don't mind writing a letter to, if you've got addresses, to whoever you want me to write a letter of apology to, because certainly it is unfortunate that the restrooms have been vandalized and could not be used. And so beyond a letter that I will be happy to write if you provide an address, I do not intend, unless directed otherwise, to reimburse you for whatever food that you say that you had. And I don't know what else you're looking for, but I don't see that that is available. But I will be happy to write a letter for Ms. Belshire, if that's what Ms. Belshire Palomore wants, once I have an opportunity to meet with her. Okay. And so I've asked you to allow me to meet with the applicant, and who we reimburse, and I'm willing to do that.
Great.
And so.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. City Manager. I appreciate it. And Ms. Palomore, thank you for bringing it to our attention and for being here this evening. And if you would have your daughter, the applicant, contact the city manager or the deputy city manager and continue to work it that way. So thank you. We're so very sorry for the circumstance related to the bathrooms. Okay?
Continue to have a good evening.
Yes, you too, ma'am. Thank you. All right, next we have Mr. Kevin Buckner and Mr. Brad Smith, who are here to speak to us about Metra transportation and home funds. Good evening.
Good evening.
And
Thank you for
if
having
you
me.
would, just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Brad Smith. My address is 3825 Paces Walk, Southeast, Suite 100, Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you for having me. Thank you for taking the time. I am part of the ownership group that will be developing on a piece of property just up the street. Address is 2551 Winton Road. This property is currently zoned multifamily with a density of 16 units per acre. We are excited about the project. We're excited about its long-term success. We're excited to be a good neighbor, a good steward of the community. We've been working on this project for about 2 years. And we have, in that process, we've had some outreach with the community, most recently with Midtown Inc., some of the neighbors, Winton Neighborhood Properties, which is a charitable organization in the area and for the neighborhood. And one of the common themes that came up from that outreach was the possibility of, instead of multifamily development, is there a possibility to do a senior development, which would be a 55-year-old and only property, no children whatsoever. And as the ownership group, we're excited for both. So for that, it really gives us an opportunity for two options. One is our intended project, which is a multifamily development of 94 units of mixed income. So some of these units will be set aside as affordable, and some will be unrestricted with no restrictions on income whatsoever. This multifamily development will not have Section 8 vouchers. We cannot provide those to folks, and it will be built to a energy-saving enterprise green community specifications, which is a very high-end, very expensive build. Both projects will be in the neighborhood of about $16 million total development costs. The other option would require council support for two items, which is specifically why I'm here today, one of which is the support from council for the release of a home loan, a fully amortizing loan of $385,000, $250,000 of which is already in circulation. These home funds go towards affordable housing and have a specific purpose in these sorts of developments. We'd be recycling $250,000 worth of that money, then asking for the additional money to get us to approximately $385,000. The other opportunity we're asking council support for is for the continued use of the Metrobus route number 8. We would ask that it be continued on a much more minimal use, 1 day or one stop per day, 5 days a week. We kind of have tagged it the lunch bus. This would continue the service of route number 8, which we find to be important to our development, especially if it goes senior. The senior development would also be mixed income. Some units set aside as affordable, and some set aside with no restrictions of income whatsoever. Again, no Section 8 vouchers provided by us whatsoever. Same build quality, enterprise green communities. There'd be zero impact on schools, obviously. And we think it too would have a long-term success for the neighborhood. We would also reduce the density from 94 units to 84 units to go senior. And so reduce that a little bit. And this is all contingent, obviously, on a market study. We have not commissioned a market study on the senior, as this just kind of came to light recently, as our plans have always been to build multifamily, which we have a supporting market study for. And I'll stop there and gladly answer any questions that anybody might have about the development or us as a company.
Okay, thank you. We've got Councilor Huff.
Welcome back to Columbus.
Good to see you.
I sat in a meeting with you with Midtown, which I want you to see who's here. If everybody here from Midtown that I asked to come, if you please stand. we were all thinking that there would be more time to meet with all of these people and the neighbors. You can be seated. So that they could understand more of what was going on, have more conversation. And I think it was semantics as far as while you were trying to get your financing together, we didn't realize that financing included us. We thought while financing was being organized, you would be back to Columbus to meet with the neighbors of the district and everything, of Midtown, to talk about what they wanted done. So all of these people are not in favor of what's going on right now. And it's just come to my attention that it was not, it's like it was speeded up for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it was omitted in the meeting. I sat in 2 different meetings, and my phone has rang off the hook. My emails have gone off the chain. And at this point in time, they're here saying, we don't want this in our neighborhood. So maybe if you had more time to sit with them, and maybe if it was something that they could wrap their minds around that would be good for their neighborhood, you could probably be able to do business without any opposition. It was brought to my attention in Midtown Board that day that the zoning didn't forbid you from doing it, but you were coming to town to meet with Midtown so that there would be no pushback. So I'm hoping and requesting that somehow we can slow this down a little bit so you could meet with Midtown and let them talk to you about what they would like to have in that space, if anything at all. Thank you.
Can I respond to? You're correct. And I think the notion that things have sped up, to use your words, isn't quite accurate. Our financing is set. The idea of going senior was a recurring theme we continue to hear. Our phones, too, have rung, and our email boxes are full. And so the opportunity to go senior is a possibility because it seemed more palatable to the folks at least we spoke with. And we, of course, have not had a chance to speak with everybody, and I wouldn't dare say that we have. When we met with you, when we met with you, Councilman, our financing is in place. Once the senior idea floated around, we had the opportunity to talk to some of the city representatives about their home funds, and we can have the opportunity to recirculate those home funds for the city. Right now, they're with a charitable organization and back into the same neighborhood. If council or the neighbors don't see senior housing as a benefit, we certainly wouldn't be here asking for any loan whatsoever, and that's okay. I want to make that clear that we're asking for that loan so that we can do a senior 55 and older only development, no children whatsoever, versus a multifamily development with a little higher density. And that's all. There's no smoke and mirrors here, sir.
Yeah, but based on that, it was stated that while you were getting your finances together, however long that took, that I requested personally for at least 2 additional meetings with the neighbors of Midtown, the people who live there.
And
to
we can
have that discussion before anything was finalized about what was going there. So whether it's seniors or a mixture of whatever components, it was mentioned also that in getting your finances together and meeting with the neighbors, that the homeowners of that area, that it would take probably till about December before you got started and all of these things. So I think it was mentioned that day by the board members that were there that they needed a lot more time to talk about it. So I think we left thinking that at least Midtown would be contacted about at least 2 additional meetings for them to call one another and be able to sit and get their questions answered. So I think now it feels like the train is coming down the track, and you have the right of way, but our car is stalled on the track. You've been notified that we're on the track, so do you stop the train or do you run us over? So here are the people here. And, if there's a vote necessary today, I'm in opposition because we hadn't had enough time to talk about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that, and just for clarity, Councilman Huff, we could have 15 more meetings before we get to before this project actually gets kicked off and any dirt is moved. We could have multiple design meetings. We have not sped up the process at all, and our message is the same. This is just, we're here tonight asking for support, but again, we could have multiple meetings all summer long with the neighborhood if they'd like.
Yeah, but I was expecting meetings before anything came before council for us to vote on being a part of what's going on.
I see, okay.
All right, we've got the Mayor Pro Tem.
Good evening. Have you done any other projects in Columbus?
In Columbus, no, ma'am.
Okay, so you're not aware of how things operate in Columbus?
No, but I think I'm going to find out.
That's one of the things, and it's not that we don't like outside development. We enjoy outside development. But when you got controversy between people who live here and people who want to build here, and they can't get together and talk before they come to council, we have a big problem with that. Because we hear from them. They blow up our telephones. And they need to be listened to, and something needs to be worked out. So in support of the council of that district, you need to meet.
Yes, ma'am.
And also, I think you said something about the transportation. I think this is one of those routes that has been changed, or it's going to be changed.
Yes, ma'am, it is. And
if that's the case, nothing can be changed on that.
we were hoping to provide the financing for that if we could continue the bus. But I understand.
All right, and remind me again, are you Mr. Buckner or Mr. Smith?
Mr. Smith, Brad.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. What we're going to do, because of the conversation, the phone calls and so forth, the city manager had on his agenda to have an update, and it would have been an update or two down the list. But since you've sort of initiated the subject, we thought it best to leapfrog and bring that on up. So what I'm going to do, if you don't mind taking a seat, we're going to have the city manager take his agenda and bring this issue up and talk about a couple of other aspects of it. So at this point, yes, I'm sorry, yes, we've got Councilor Thomas before you.
Mr. Smith, I want to be sure that I understand what you're here asking us to consider. I thought that I understood that you were asking us to consider the Metro transportation redesign and home funds for the affordable housing 94-unit parcel. And then I heard you say something about you didn't need it for that, you needed it for the senior housing. Would you just clarify that for me, please?
Yes, ma'am. We have, as I said before, worked diligently on this project over the years, and it's always been our intention to build the multifamily component on that piece of property. Through our talks with Midtown Inc. and some of these meetings that Councilman Huff was at and went in neighborhoods and some of the city representatives, it just was a theme that was brought up to us many times to potentially switch the development from a multifamily development to a senior 55 and older development. If we were to switch to a 55 and older development, we would ask council support for the extension of the Route 8, which you're correct, has been, I think, actually may have been voted on. And we would be happy to finance that at least through the rest of the year. And in addition to that, to recycle those home funds for our use on our project in the form of an amortizing loan.
Only for the senior development?
Yes, ma'am.
So for the original multifamily facility that you were contemplating there, you are not asking for any consideration from this council?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank
and
you.
With that, we will close public agenda. Excuse me? No, we're going to close public agenda. We're going to turn it over to the city manager, who's then going to kick off with his updates, which will bring us to the same point. So, yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'll go ahead and call up our Director of Community Reinvestment, Laura Johnson, to talk about the Winton Road potential development project that we're having the conversation about. So, Laura Johnson.
Good evening. So I wanted to start out this presentation by basically saying who TBG Residential is. They're an affordable housing developer out of Atlanta, Georgia. Their mission is to address the housing needs of families and seniors in underserved markets by creating well-designed neighborhoods that are vibrant and sustainable. They've completed 16 affordable housing projects. They have 2 under construction. They're throughout Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee. 5 of those developments were senior, and 11 were family housing. So I wanted to start out a little bit about just showing you a few pictures of some of the developments they've done in other parts of Georgia and Alabama. So in Winder, Georgia, these are a couple units. This is family housing that they created there or developed there. And then here's a couple pictures of some of the family housing that they created in Prattville, Alabama. So the potential site that they're looking at is 2551 Winton Road. As mentioned earlier, this site is listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and it was placed there in about 1979. The name of the home that was on the site was called Hilton. It was originally a 4-room clapboard house built in 1838 by Dr. Lovick Pierce. The original home is no longer on the site, but the property still remains historic, and there's approximately 6 acres on that site. So as he mentioned with the home funding, originally they were proposing to do the 90 units of affordable housing. But as he stated now, they're looking at reducing that density down and doing senior housing, which is senior affordable housing, but it would be strictly for seniors 55 and older. They're wanting to apply for low-income housing tax credits, and that's through the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. And they're requesting Home Investment Partnership Program funding, which is home funding that the city gets on an annual basis. Every year we receive about $650,000 to $700,000 of this funding, and it's used to create affordable housing. That's the purpose of the funds. And because the city is a direct entitlement community from HUD, we automatically get that funds based on poverty and all throughout the city. So they're looking at about 326 is what I had earlier. You said 385. I think that's because the scope changed from senior or family to senior. But it would be a loan that would be repaid within a 10-year period. And as I stated, the purpose of home funds is to develop affordable housing options in Columbus. So as he mentioned, Winton Neighborhood Housing currently has approximately $250,000 of home funds in their bank account. And that was produced as program income. So when they used to receive funding from the city on an annual basis to produce housing, when they sold that housing, that money went back into their bank account. And it's considered program income, which means it still has to comply with all home regulations. So they have agreed to return that funding to the city, and the city in turn could inject an additional $100,000 into the project. In return, Winton Neighborhood Housing would earn developer fees off this project. So they would still get money back to them. But the money that they would receive back to them would be coming directly from the developer, and it would be classified as developer fees, and it would not be have restrictions like home funding, which means they could use the funding for minor repairs or other things that they want to do in their target neighborhood and not have to be fully compliant with home. So basically, the city would issue the $326 or $385 loan. We'd take the $250 from Winton, the $100 from the city, and then the city would be repaid that entire $326 or $385,000. The other thing that they're asking for was a bus route extension for bus route number 8. As council approved discontinuing this route, number 8, since it was being underutilized, and it's expected to cease operations on May 5th. The estimated cost to operate this bus line through December 2018 is $46,000, and TBG Residential has agreed to pay the city for the cost to operate that bus route through December. The proposal would be to operate a lunch shuttle 4 trips per day between 11 and 2, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. So the benefits of this development to the city would be, one, that it could generate about $250,000 a year in property tax revenue. It's also listed or located in Midtown West TAD number 5 and could potentially be a successful TAD project. It would create new affordable rental housing units for the residents of Columbus. It would employ local companies during and after construction. And it would create temporary jobs during construction and permanent jobs after construction is complete. So the opposition to the development that we've heard is many residents are concerned about the number of units that we would place at the location. There's also the perception that this type of development will decrease the property values around the site. There's also perception that crime rates will increase if this development is placed at that location as well. And then they're also concerned about the historic significance of the property and how that historic significance will be impacted by this type of development. Another thing that I heard today that I do not have on this slide was many are concerned about the traffic, what kind of traffic this will cause at that location. So that's all I have. I'll open it for questions.
So, Madam Mayor, I sent an email to you and members of council, of course, I'd had a conversation with staff, and I've heard from a number of citizens. And having heard from staff and from some citizens, I sent you an email saying to you that I was not going to bring this project forward at this time. And I said that to you because of a lot of what you've heard around the table. When we've addressed issues of tax allocation districts, when we have addressed issues of overlay areas, districts, when we approach controversial rezonings, we typically would have the developer to get with organizations and residents in that area where that activity is going to occur. And we encourage developers to explain the project. We encourage developers to be flexible and hear what the concerns are from citizens and organizations, and be willing to make some adjustments and try and bring forward a project that's understood and supported, perhaps not by 100%, but by an overwhelming majority of citizens and organizations. And that had not been done as I could see. I certainly had not been invited to a meeting, didn't understand the project as city manager. And so I knew that from the concern I was hearing that that would be a concern of mine and certainly could possibly be a concern of yours. That was one thing, and reason I was not going to bring it forward at this time. The other reason was that, a second was that it's on the National Register, as I understand it, and some conversation should have been or needs to be had with the Historic Columbus and others who are ombudsmen for historic properties. That had not been done, and that needed to be done, and that's just the way we do it around here. And then the third concern that was really a big concern of mine is that we have planned for and presented to you, and you've voted to approve. We've had public hearings and to discontinue certain routes or portions of routes with an objective in mind to eliminate waste in what we're doing, because the $22.4 million that was approved through T-SPLOST needs to sustain the service, the added service that we are providing citizens for many years to come. Because when that money is gone, it's gone. And so you agreed that Route 8 would be eliminated because there was literally no ridership on that route. And with no ridership on that route, in good conscience, we couldn't ask you to allow us to continue that route, and so it has been eliminated with an effective date in May. And then this developer needs points for tax credits and wants us to continue the route, and I told staff, absolutely not, we could not continue a route that does not work. And then they came back with discontinuing the route, but allow it to run lunch routes a couple hours a day, just during lunchtime. Well, we didn't get ridership at lunchtime. It was even worse at that time. And so I didn't want to put this city in a position that we agree that we will do lunch routes and they pay for it only through December. And then we give Department of Community Affairs, DCA, the impression that it's a productive route, it's a route that we are going to continue, and then they get the tax credits in May based on continuing that route, and then it seems like a shell game to me that we would then, after they get the tax credits, discontinue the route. And as city officials, I couldn't be a party to that, and I wouldn't put you in a position to be a party to something like that. And so that is why I sent you the correspondence that I sent you saying that as city manager, I'm not prepared to bring the project forward at this time, and it's for those reasons. And so that position has not changed, especially considering the Metro route situation. So that is where I stand in the position that I take regarding the project.
Okay, thank you. And we've got several counselors lined up. Laura, I just want to ask one question because I may have misheard you, and so and other people might have, and I don't want to go down a trail that was just a miss here. You said something about this being a potential TAD project in a TAD district, but is it not a nonprofit circumstance? And so that would not assist or aid in a TAD whatsoever?
I do not believe that they would be classified as a nonprofit. Yeah, they're a for-profit entity.
So they're going to be paying taxes on this property?
Yes.
Will be paying taxes?
Yes.
Okay, then I guess that's good. And I think, Mr. City Manager, you said something about Historic Columbus, but you might have meant to also, or perhaps Board of Historic and Architectural Review.
Yes,
which even though the zoning is correct,
yes,
apparently it would have to pass BHAR.
Yes.
Or have some sort of designation changed about the property.
Correct.
So, okay, those were just the two things I wanted to clear up before we got on to questions. We have Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. Laura, this question revolves around, I guess, the commitment that the developer would have in what he said today. If council, and this is a big if council approves the request that he's presented to us, what obligation does he have or do they have to then go forward, as he's mentioned, considering the senior, adding a senior component to this development, or could he change his mind and just continue with the original development?
Basically, the tax credit application's due at the end of May. We would have to give some sort of commitment to them that we would authorize the loan that they need in order for them to give that point that they would get on their application for that. But we could always put a stipulation in there that what that loan is for, saying it's senior housing, it's 85 units, or whatever we come to an agreement in, would all be in whatever document or agreement that we have with them that they would have to put in their tax credit application. So basically, if for some reason they tried to develop something other than what council approved them developing, they wouldn't be able to do that because they wouldn't be able to get our funding, which would mess up their application because they're stating in their application they're putting our funding in their budget, and if we take that funding away because they're not in compliance with what they're saying they're going to do, then they wouldn't get the points they need on their application. Same thing with the bus route. First off, they would be required to pay the city up front for that, to run it through the end of the year. And if for some reason when they submit that application in May, we'll know by the end of May what they put in their application. So if their application states 90 units, they would still have already paid the city that funding, and then we could discontinue the route at that time. We just have to have it in the agreement. Whatever agreement we would have with them, we just have to have those stipulations in that agreement to protect the city with what we have actually agreed or council agrees to do. Because we'll know in May what they submitted. They have to submit it for what they're going to build. So if they say in their application to DCA, we're going to build 90 units, family housing, and what we agreed to was the senior housing, 85 units or 84 units, then they're already compliant, or out of compliance with their tax credit application because they're not doing what the city actually agreed to do. So we would know by the end of May if they tried to do what we asked them not to do.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
And I'm sorry, this May? Next May?
This May. Their tax credit application's due, I believe, on May 23rd.
Okey dokey.
May 24th, I'm sorry.
And that's why that's why he was here tonight?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we've got Counselor Baker.
Ms. Johnson, do we know, this might be a question for the city attorney, are there any stipulations about building on a historic site? Is there any clearance that has to come, or is the local governing body active in any part of that clearance?
This property is not locally designated in a district, but it is a landmark property on the National Register of Historic Places. The only review that BHAR has over something outside of a district that is National Register is if it's a landmark property, and this is a landmark property. So whatever they did, whatever they do, they have to go to BHAR. They'd have to approve demolition of the three chimneys, couple outbuildings that's remaining of the old site, and architectural design. What it would look like would have to be approved by BHAR.
Okay. And Ms. Johnson, I'm confused about one thing. On one of your earlier slides where you had the 90 unit mentioned at the top, then below that you talked about the loan provisions. And I thought those didn't apply unless it was the senior piece.
You're talking about the funding?
Yes, it was one of your earlier slides.
Well, they had already asked previously for the funding in the bus routes, even before, because they talked to me about that first when they approached me in May.
Okay, well, back up one slide. Okay, there, it's got the 90 units at the top, but at the
Right.
bottom you lay out the home funding.
Right.
So is the 90 multifamily contingent upon the loan provisions?
I mean, that was my understanding at the beginning. When they first approached me in March, they had asked for home funds in the bus route at that time.
I think they've slightly changed.
Yes, yeah, because I believe since that time.
And it may be based on pushback that they've received.
Yeah. I think they're trying to do the senior development with less density because of all the concerns that they've heard from the citizens. But originally, they had asked for that loan in the beginning as well, when they were trying to do the family housing.
But do they have to have it for the family?
We do not.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And we have Counselor Thomas.
I spoke this afternoon with the director of the Historic Columbus Foundation, and she told me that the executive committee of the Historic Columbus Foundation has taken a unanimous position in opposition to this building on this site. And one of the main reasons for that is because of the designation of the site on the National Historic Register. And it's my understanding from talking with her, and Mr. Johnson, you may be able to verify this, that it would not matter what went on that site. It is a National Historic Register designated site, and so therefore falls under certain restrictions. Is that pretty much?
As a landmark site under that designation, there are two different issues. But yes, you're absolutely correct. Because it is a landmark designated site on the National Register, it's through National Park Service, several criteria. That would be part of the recommendation from staff to the BHAR. Primarily, the biggest issue with the landmark status would be demolition of anything on that site.
So it wouldn't matter if they built an 84-unit senior housing project, or if somebody went in there and built a $250,000 house. It still has to meet that criteria.
Landmark status stays with the property unless somehow it is lifted, and I would defer to Historic Columbus on how that process takes place, because it's at a national level.
Okay. Mr. City Manager, you said you got a number of phone calls. I, too, have gotten a number of phone calls and emails and so forth. And it seems that the major objection to this particular development is the size of the development, putting in 90 units there. And as Ms. Johnson said, the resulting traffic that would bring in that area. And each one of the people that I have spoken with have said to me that this is, their objection would be to any development of that size, no matter what the designation, if it was affordable housing or if it was not affordable, not that designation, but, you know, the top of the line $1 million units or whatever. But that density is a serious concern of the people in the neighborhood. And so I agree with what you have done, Mr. City Manager, to say thank you for sharing with us, but we're at this point not interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask the developer, so you currently have do you have site control right now? You have control of the land, or is it under a
Yes, sir.
LOI, under a contract?
Under contract, sir.
So it's a letter of intent right now?
It's under contract.
Is it based on these conditions that you presented to us tonight, request?
It is not.
And you said earlier that you already have your loan finance arrangements already in place.
No, our financing mechanism is with DCA tax credits and.
That's not what you said to Councilor Huff earlier. You told him, regardless, you already had your finance lined up, your financing lined up.
Yes.
I think you said that very clearly.
If I did, I still stand by that. Our mechanism of how to get our financing is a direct and clear path.
Well, this just gives you another option, I think, but so regardless whether you get it or not, you just told me that your letter of intent does not rely on this request tonight.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let you know from my perspective, some of the things I heard tonight, I'm not ready to open that door yet because honestly, I haven't seen these kind of deals done in Columbus, Georgia, the way you're requesting. So you need to know that. And I wouldn't, from this point, recommend the city based on some of the things I've heard you say and how you want to use the money. And timelines, et cetera, I kind of question that a little bit, so, no offense.
No,
I'm
none taken.
just, we're dealing with a different entity or request an incentive that's coming out of a different pot, one that I think this body and this government needs to be very careful with in the use. So it looks like you've done a lot of these projects before, so you understand what I'm saying.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that concludes discussion at this time, and no action will be taken. We appreciate everybody's involvement this evening, and we will move forward with the city manager's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Wait, hold on. Push your button. Yeah, we have, okay, if we could, everybody. I know people are seeing old friends, but if you all could step out, we've got further business. What's it? All right, everybody, hush it up. Hush it up. All right, we've got the Mayor Pro Tem.
I just want to ask, what's the city manager?
Yes.
Can we get them to check the thermostat in here too?
It's cold.
They will.
Thank you.
You hear me?
Yeah, I
You
hear
keep saying that, it's going to come true.
It is true.
Y'all speak for yourself. That's all I got to say. All right, Mr. City Manager.
All right, Mayor and Council, we spoke with you at the last meeting about the Whitesville Walk variance request, and so we've had staff and various staff working along with the developer, and tonight we are requesting approval for the variance request, platting and development of Lot 15C, Whitesville Walk. Of course, you know that the UDO, Section 783, Design Standards for Streets, requires the installation of a cul-de-sac when the logical extension of a subdivision is terminated. But Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge and representatives from our Department of Engineering, Public Works, and Fire EMS met with the developer. The developer, Leary and Brown, Inc., committed to construct a permanent barrier at the end of the existing road at 150 feet in order to comply with the fire code. The developer has agreed to provide a temporary turnaround or extend the street in accordance with the UDO requirements if they reach an agreement to acquire the adjoining property in the future. They also agree that such improvements will be completed within 1 year of acquisition of the property. Public Works has reviewed the process for solid waste pickup, and they do not anticipate any additional problems than what exists today with the residents that's currently out there in terms of how they will walk to get any collections that are necessary. And so based on those things, having met with the developer and an understanding with all departments involved that had concern, I am recommending approval of the variance based.
Do you have a question? Councilor Davis.
Ms. City Manager, I did make a motion to approve, and I just want to thank you. I want to thank the staff, Ms. Newman, Director Newman, and the rest of the staff for being proactive and working through this with the developer and all. I really appreciate that. I think the rest of the council does as well.
Thank you.
All right, we've got a motion and second. There appears to be no further discussion. So at this time, you all may record your votes electronically. And it passes.
Madam Mayor, next I've got an allocation of Community Development Block Grant Funds to NeighborWorks Columbus.
Motion approved.
Got a motion and second to approve. Is there any discussion on this item? We've got Counselor Baker.
I just want to make sure, anything in this particular agreement that in any way would find its way into the issue that we just discussed, any of these funds? Just want to make sure. 'cause they-
Yeah, I think Laura's
And
just.
while she is going back to get her, let me just mention that it's for $175,000 to acquire, rehabilitate, or construct affordable single-family housing for income-eligible households. And we've got the President and CEO of Columbus Housing Initiative, NeighborWorks, Kathy Williams here. Did you want to speak to that?
I'd be happy to answer any questions. This is specifically for single-family. And just briefly, NeighborWorks Columbus has been talking loudly, screaming for years that not all tax dollars should go into multifamily for LIHTC, or low-income housing tax credits. And the state has finally said, all right, let's see what we can do. And we're going to be piloting a program for the state of Georgia in Columbus around single-family rental, rent-to-own. Because what we're finding in today's environment is that lower-income families are paying way too much of their income towards housing, making them very vulnerable and having to stay ahead of the landlord or having to go into foreclosure or, in some very tragic situations, becoming homeless. So what we're doing with the state of Georgia, who's putting up $1 million that we now have to match, and this is moving in that direction, is to acquire and rehab or build single-family housing for what families can afford for 15 years, and then work with them during those 15 years to prepare them for home ownership. Because what we're also finding in today's reality is that a lot of our families, the number one obstacle to home ownership is student debt. And families are coming to us to help with housing issues, but because of student debt, it's going to take them 10 or 15 years before they can actually be able to be mortgage ready. And so this will prepare them during that 15 years. It will also allow us to put some of these dollars into targeted revitalization. So it's a win-win-win-win-win.
Okay, so I want Laura Johnson to come to the mic, and I want her to answer that question the counselor asked. And would you repeat the question, Counselor?
I just want to make sure that
Hold on, I'm sorry.
these funds were not related to the request that we just addressed, because they still talk about a lot of the same items, but
Yeah.
there's no direct connection between us
No.
approving this and finding its way into the issue that was just before us.
There's no direct correlation
Okay.
between the two programs.
Just wanna make sure.
All of the city's funding that we get from HUD is to benefit pretty much low to moderate income. So this
Well,
is
right.
CDBG funds that,
No, I understand.
for this project, and like she said, it's for single-family housing and for
Gotcha.
home ownership. The other was multifamily rental.
It was,
so.
thank you.
And Madam Mayor, while she's standing there, I just want to express my appreciation to Laura Johnson because, we get more than $2 million in Community Development Block Grant Home Funds, and she's mentioned what the purpose of those funds. We're an entitlement city, and you saw her PowerPoint presentation. She would not let it go without you knowing all of the facts, how the money works, and how it would benefit this community. And so I appreciate her sharing all of those facts with you because you needed to know all of that. But even so, I expressed the concerns that I had and wanted you to know, but you heard all of the facts and you got both sides of the story. And so I appreciate and applaud her for making sure that I stay on course in protecting the future dollars coming to this city from the federal and state governments. So thank you.
We've got Counselor, I'm sorry. Yeah, we got Counselor Davis.
Ms. City Manager, I just want to add to that, too. I think outside of, we've had our partners with the Housing Authority for many years, and we've done a lot of things, some good things together. And outside of that, I think as long as I've been on this council, Well, I think there was one incident where we kind of had, things kind of went awry, got in trouble, and we had to come up with some solutions. But outside that, I think the focus has always been on single-family and home ownership with these dollars that we're talking about. And I think I'm pretty accurate on that, but, and certainly our partners that we have worked with here locally, that's always been the focus. And number one, cleaning up our community, and then going back and trying to provide affordable housing for many, that where they can have home ownership or a path to home ownership. I'm pretty sure that's always been our objective with the funds that you're talking about.
We use CB, Community Block Grant funds for demolition, don't we?
Oh, yes.
Yes, that's what I
Portion,
thought. We have Counselor Barnes.
I just want to amen what you're saying about Laura. You're on it.
Thank you.
Big time. There's going to be a gentleman, I'm going to give you his name, that wants to talk about the, I think for seniors that we spoke about. And secondly, I eventually got in touch with Wanilda, so I just want to arrange. But yes, she does an excellent job. She's on it. And what I like about her is that she follows up. You mention something, she'll get back with you with the answer that you want. So that's always important, being that it's our job to, any question that we have for our constituents, they want to have an answer to. So if I call Laura Johnson, she's going to definitely get back with me with an answer.
Okay, Madam Mayor, we need a vote on.
Yeah, we had a motion and a second. That concludes discussion, so you all may record your votes electronically. Let's see, and we might need somebody is missing. There we go. I think that's it. Okay.
Madam Mayor, next I've got a 2018 Georgia Smart Communities Challenge Grant, and it is for $50,000. And
Got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion related to this item? Seeing none, you may record your votes electronically. And maybe one more, and it passes.
I've got some.
Oh, we've got, okay, we've got Counselor, if I can get over to it, we've got Counselor Thomas.
Mr. City Manager, I've had a couple of questions about something that we did. There was an article in the paper about Columbus CPD cars will be at schools more often because they now can use the internet of those schools to write the reports and so forth. The questions that I have received deal with how secure both the city information would be and the school district information would be if the CPD can use that. And the second question was, is that available to anybody that happens to drive up with internet connection? Would you speak to that?
Yeah, right now it's not available just yet, but in the MOU that the council approved and the school board approved, the intent is, I'll speak on security first. So first is that we are using their access points or their wireless access points. They would be using ours, but we're not on the same network. So the networks never share data. They just share the fiber and the optics and the radio transmitter, but not the same networks. So there's no, we would have to do another agreement if we wanted to actually share data or be on their network. So we're not on their network in the technical sense, but we will be using their radio transmitters that are in their wireless, and they would be using ours. So the intent would be that at a Parks and Rec facility, for instance, where the kids go after school, the school district SSID or their wireless would be on our wireless access points, but it'd be on the school district network, and the kids would be on the school district network so they could do all of their work from our facility as if they were at school. And then reverse that in the sense that our police and our private networks from the government would be on their wireless networks, as far as the access point would be generated, and so the police officer could do work from the school. Now, being that they're private, you can't actually see that network. So if you didn't already know the network was there and your car or your computer wasn't already set up to see the network, you can't really access that network. And again, we don't share crossover networks. So if you went up to the school and you didn't have a city computer already set up to use RMS, you would not see the city network for the police. If you were with the city and you went up to use your city computer for, like what we're doing in this room, your city computer would see the CCG private network, but someone else wouldn't see the private network. And then, of course, the school district network is MCSD-B. It would be broadcast on our facilities, and you would see that network because it is not a hidden network. So I hope that kind of answers your question.
But in neither case could anyone get into records or
Correct.
Those kinds of things.
No data sharing.
No data sharing.
No data sharing, and that was specifically in the MOU, that there would be no data sharing, and if we ever decided to do that, that we would come back to council with a data sharing agreement, because that would mean that we would have to be more stringent. We would have to know who works for them, they have to know who works for us. We don't have a data sharing agreement with them.
I think it's a very good thing that we are able to do this, the kind of sharing that you have described, and I'm glad that we can now reassure these folks that it's a secure network and it's not something that is going to be open to the wide world. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I think that's it.
Madam Mayor, I've got some purchases. First, I've got special operations equipment for the Columbus Police Department. It's 125 sets of special ops equipment.
Got a motion and second to approve. There being no discussion, you may record your votes electronically. And it passes.
I have basketball officiating services, $16,500.
Motion to approve B through F. Is there a second? Is there anyone who wants to pull anything in particular for discussion? Okay, let's see. We've got item B, which is basketball officiating services. That's an annual contract. C is lawn maintenance equipment and supplies, another annual contract. D, payment for inmate pharmacy services. E is overhaul and relocation services for Cascade System. F is online and toll-free court payment services for Recorder's Court. Seeing no discussion, you may record your votes electronically. And it passes.
And I've got an add-on, and it's a right of first refusal of 1600 Blanchard Boulevard, and so we're requesting approval to terminate our right of refusal for that property. It's Faith Worship Center International. Currently, they currently own the property and in the process of trying to sell it. And after conducting a title examination, it was discovered that the city has the first right of refusal. And we're not interested in purchasing the property. We're interested in it going back on the tax roll if that's possible. And so we're asking you to authorize terminating.
Approval. Do we have a second? I thought I heard, yes, a second. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, you may record your votes electronically. Okay, and I think it passes. Yeah, there we go. We have one more. There we go.
And
Perfect.
so with that, Madam Mayor, I'm going to go into the updates. First, I've got Recorder's Court. Got Chief Clerk Donna Willingham here, and I'll ask the Finance Director to come around and tell us what this request is about.
Hello again. Recorder's Court is here tonight again pursuant to ordinance number 13-39, and that if a department is expected to exceed their budgeted appropriations, they have to come before council and request additional funding. And the reason for the additional funding request, we recently discovered that we underreported, I guess, the amount of wages needed for the part-time judges. Donna recently advised me that the Saturday court session is actually paid out as 2 sessions and not 1 session. And also recently discovered that the part-time judges do receive pay when they attend judicial training in the spring. We have 2 judges that'll be attending judicial training, and they are required to receive payment when they attend training prior to a budget ordinance from 2008. So with that, Recorder's Court is requesting an additional $5,000 for the part-time wages and also to cover some furniture purchases for the judge's office.
And let me just say regarding the furniture, you know, when the coroner came, I spoke about the use of the purchase card. You need to know what's in your budget before you use your purchase card, because it's going to put you further over budget than you are before, obviously, you use it. And so when Recorder's Court came at the last meeting, we reported to you that there was a need for, I believe, $32,000 altogether, $21,000 for cubicles and then some other things.
Yes.
And so we were moving forward with those items. And then I think the clerk discovered some savings in a line item and proceeded to purchase furniture with that savings. And I think the finance director wrote back saying, you know, obviously if there's savings, it should go towards the overage that we just approved and not to buy something different. And that was a concern. In other words, if I ask you for $32,000 and then I go back and find that, oh, I'm under in a particular line item, so I'm going to use this money to buy something different, that poses a problem for us, because instead of asking for 32, we should have asked for 30,000. And we simply cannot set a precedent in operating in that manner. And so we just want to be very clear about that, whether it's an elected official or anyone else who comes before you to get you to approve exceeding their budget. Don't go back in weeks from now and find money that you can now spend on something different. Because if we allow that to happen in one area, then obviously others are going to do the same thing, and we want to be consistent across the board. And so I just want to make that clear.
All right, we've got the Mayor Pro Tem. Hold on, let me get to you. There you go.
You got it. I'm trying to think out what I want to say. If I have to ask the committee, did they bring that to the 3-person committee on this council?
Did they bring?
The request for furniture?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for furniture. Did they bring the request for furniture to the 3-person committee? And we've got Councilor Thomas.
We have talked with Judge Hunter and Ms. Willingham on several occasions about some of this funding and the furniture, and the fact that the judge's office was in dire need of furniture that was usable. But this specific item, I'm not sure that it did come before us. Do either of you recall?
Okay, we've got, no, okay. Yeah, we've got Counselor Allen.
I think, I don't remember the specific items coming, but I think when we talked with Donna, there were a lot of things, changes she was going to make and things that she was going to bring back to us. I know that she's relatively new to the city. There are protocols that we need to follow as far as the budget process. I know that since she's been here, I think other departments have come and said, I have an overage, so I'm going to do this, this, and this with it. And that's may have been what happened in her situation, seeing other people do what she did in this situation. So I think it's just a learning process. There are protocols we've got to follow, and I don't really have a big problem with it. I don't have a problem approving it. I think that what we as a council took on when we took the Recorder's Court responsibility, and I think Councilor Thomas has explained this before, that we are in the position of trying to set up a court for the public that would be a fair and friendly process. Some people, as Judge Hunter has said several times, they come down there and this is their first time being in court. They're terrified. And they're trying to make it a warm and fuzzy environment and a learning experience, and then hopefully they won't have to come back anymore. But there are a lot of upgrades and updates that are needed there. That we just didn't realize what a bad shape this court was in until we started digging into it and talking with Judge Hunter and Donna once she got on board. So I think there's some growing process here, and we just need to work through them and let's get on down the road because we got bigger things to do.
Okay, hold on, because we got to get back to the proper order. We've got the floor belongs to the Mayor Pro Tem.
You know, I take issue with that, and the reason I do is because when we do it on something that we're in control of, what's to stop other departments from doing it? We almost fired people for doing the same thing under other elected officials. We took cards from elected officials because they charged stuff to their cards.
Well,
it doesn't matter.
There was a willful intent to violate the protocol of the city, and this is not that situation. It's two apples and oranges.
Okay.
But it's not apple and oranges. You can't have any department in this government charging on their card that they are already over budget without coming back to council. And that was put in place. And we can't, because it's our department, because it's our responsibility. They have to walk the same walk as everybody else.
All right. We've got Counselor Barnes.
Look, I think Donna just needs to learn. She hit the ground, and I want to share something what Gary has said. You know, she's had an awesome responsibility because I think everybody up here realizes we should have had somebody in place in that Recorder's Court. We got caught with a situation, and we knew that we needed to have someone in there, and so we did a search and we got her. I think she's learning on the fly right now. And she's made a number of very proactive things for the Recorder's Court. So I really think, and I do realize that we're in a situation right now where she just doesn't know the situation. She's learning. She's learning, so it's not anything deliberate. And I agree with Gary. The other situation was deliberate, Evelyn. This was not. So I think it is a difference. I disagree with you wholeheartedly. It is a difference because she's trying to learn. Okay, so now what we need to do is to try to find out. You've already told her that this is a problem, right?
Right, if I may, Donna and I did have a conversation on Monday where we discussed the process. We are working with Donna to get her in our training for our financial system.
There we go.
So that she can properly conduct financial transactions. So we're working with her to schedule the training. I do believe you can't, there is a bit of a learning curve here as
Yes.
far as the process with the purchasing cars. There was a misunderstanding as far as, from my conversation with Donna, as far as how to handle that purchase and using the purchasing card. There was a directive that funding needed to be verified, and obviously the purchase was made before that verification was put into place, but that was due to a misunderstanding from my conversation with Donna, a misunderstanding in her conversation with our purchasing department.
There we go, and I'm glad, and I really me knowing you, I kind of figured you realize that it is an immense learning curve to come in. She's done a lot since she's been here. So, Donna, before you do it, if you would interface with.
Okay. Let me explain something to you. When I got the email from Isaiah, I understood he had no problem, and he suggested, that I talk with Angelica in finance. I had tried to call Angelica. I couldn't reach her. But also Andrea, the purchasing director, was also copied on the email. So I contacted purchasing, and I talked to purchasing, and they said, well, the issue was that it was over $1,000, and you had to send it out for bids. And I said, okay, well, in that case, what about if I just purchase part of it? Which originally what I asked for was the couch, a love seat, a table, 2 end tables, and 2 lamps. So when I spoke with the purchasing person, they told me as long as, if that's what you want to do and it's under $1,000, there shouldn't be any problem, because the way they read the email, it would be okay as long as we had it in our budget. And I had looked, and in one line item, it looked like we were going to have a little bit left over. So it wasn't a huge amount. It wasn't over $1,000. And I thought I was okay. I did not know that I was not okay to go ahead and purchase it, because I had gotten her approval. So when I found out it was not okay and I had already purchased it, then I went and had a meeting with Angelica, because I want to do the right steps, and I want to do what the city requires. So I'm not trying to do something out of line. I didn't try to do something out of line. I felt like, that purchase was under $1,000. I had the okay from the purchasing department, so I purchased it because I felt like we had it under a line item in our budget, and it would be okay. And I had prior conversations with 2 of the committee members, and I let them know, a few months ago, the judge, we're getting ready to remodel. The judge has no furniture at all for his office. And I had talked to them about purchasing maybe a couch and love seat to go in there.
Donna, I just wanted to say that I think everybody's in agreement that there's no way that you intentionally violated our rules. And I will say, a lot of our department heads or folks actually have the same sort of circumstance. They didn't really appreciate. And here, let me say, because I think I might have a solution too, and then I've got a point of order question I want to clear up. First of all, it's the Wayfair.com is not an approved vendor, and I know that's always easy, going online and buying it. But we do have to get out for bid. It does have to be approved vendor, so definitely get with folks and learn about those rules. The other thing I would say, and thankfully you weren't here to sit through the hours of this discussion, but several years ago we had hours of discussion about furnituring this entire building. Not just a love seat, the entire building being furnished with surplus furniture that we have. So I just say that because we actually have an awesome black leather love seat that was in the Mayor Pro Tem's office that we had to abandon because the city attorney's out of space, and we moved his paralegal into the Mayor Pro Tem's office, and she was kind enough to let us. But 2 end tables, a leather love seat, really nice, I'm not kidding, so there's no way you could furnish an entire building with what we have as surplus, because it's bits and pieces. But if you went down there to cherry pick, you'd find some good stuff. And so I just say that as you do this, there might be some stuff down there, and I don't know if you can send this back, or, I have no idea, or if you'd even want to, but just in similar circumstances, there's just been change, and people have submitted that. So to you and anybody else watching, before you buy furniture, definitely go to Surplus, because there's stuff there to cherry pick. Now, the point of order was, what's council being asked to do?
Well, we want them to approve the funding, but, and I think we've had enough discussion on it, but my only point was, if I come this week and ask you for $20,000, I can't go and spend that $20,000 on what you approved, but then tell you I found $1,000 in another line item, now I'm going to go buy furniture. That was my point. Yeah.
Right.
And so, but we would ask council to approve the additional funding that's necessary.
Okay, we got a motion second for approval. We got a couple more folks. Angela, could you want to say
Well,
something?
I just want to make a clarification as far as what Donna mentioned, as far as receiving approval from the purchasing department. I have spoke with the purchasing department, and what they advised Donna was the procurement process.
Okay. Thank you. And also, we all have a friend in finance. I seriously, I have to call them all the time, because you don't want to run afoul of anything, and it's hard to keep a lot of this stuff straight. So they're there for you and for all of us. Councilor Davis, did I get your point of order? Okay.
Vote if you want to, and then I'll comment.
Okay, well, we got another counselor up.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to add to, I know it's kind of school of hard knocks, learning on the job, but I do think this needs to be said, because even Judge Hunter, Counselor Hunter, at one point and one time, we worked together, and it was an honor and a privilege. Ms. City Manager, you've been in the hot seat. I've been in the hot seat. We've all been in the hot seat, and many of the staff has been in the hot seat, and we've had some poignant conversations over this very subject. So I think in the dialogue tonight, that needs to be understood that, a lot of people watch. So at least, and we've got a lot of very forgiving people around here, so I think we're solving this and resolving it. But I just wanted you to know, Ms. Willingham, that there's been a history where we've had some pretty poignant conversations up here in the past over this subject, so,
Great, and we've got the Mayor Pro Tem.
And my comments were not related just to the elected officials. But I've been here 29 years. And right after I first came down here, we had the same issue with somebody in Parks and Rec. So, I don't take lightly my job. And I understand that when you're new, when you come in, you have to learn. But to tell somebody that it's okay, won't get it with me.
All right, we've got a motion.
And I'm not asking anybody on council to like what I said. It doesn't matter.
Okay, all right, let's keep it in the lines. All right, all those in favor, please state aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, thank you. And Angelica, you may want to, I don't know how it works, but when folks call you, or maybe it's for an email or something, if anybody's looking for furniture, we got parts. We got parts, okay? Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Okay, and so next on the agenda is the Finance Monthly Update.
All right. Okay. So what you have before you is the financial snapshot for the month of March 2018. Starting out to the right of the snapshot with the operating funds, the general fund is up 2.49% when compared to March 2017. The other local option sales tax fund is up 2.17%. The stormwater fund is up 4.41%. The paving fund is up 1.36%. The medical center fund is up 3.14%. The integrated waste fund is up 1.84%. The emergency telephone fund, or the E911 fund, is down 4.95%. And again, that is just due to the prepaid wireless refunds that the state enacted this year, and we can expect these types of revenues for at least another 4 fiscal years. The Economic Development Authority Fund is up 3.14%. The Debt Service Fund is up 15.51%. And that is just due to transfers being processed at this March of this year that weren't processed as of March of last year. So it's just a timing difference there. The Transportation Fund, Metro Fund, is up 18.62%. The Parking Management Fund is down currently 6.29%. The Trade Center Fund is down 8.91%. The Bull Creek Golf Course Fund is down 4.44%. Oxbow Creek Golf Course Fund is down 3.74%. And the Civic Center Fund is up 3.51%. Moving down the snapshot to the other local option sales tax for the public safety side, we have reported revenues of $15.8 million. Expenditures to date are $16.9 million, almost $17 million in expenditures there. For the other local option sales tax infrastructure summary, the revenues are a little bit more than $6.7 million. And expenditures are $8.9 million to date. Moving to the left side of the snapshot, you can see the departments within the general fund that are currently exceeding the expected goal. At this point in the fiscal year, we project about a 75% expenditure ratio. And so the departments that are highlighted here are the departments that are currently exceeding the 75%. So we have the city attorney's litigation. We're currently still defending several million in claims. The employee benefits, we made our annual death and major disability benefit payment. So that's a one-time, once-a-year expenditure. We don't anticipate there being any problems as of June 30th with that particular department. Real estate is at 87.83%, and that is due to taxes that we had to pay out for real estate purchases, as well as building maintenance and repairs for legacy terrorists, but there is a revenue offset to offset these expenditures. The jury manager, there's a subscription that's due at the beginning of the fiscal year, as well as the jury fees. There's periodic reimbursement to the jury pool for fees paid out to the jurors. And so that's why that's over the 75% goal. And then there's the public defender's office, and that's just due to the monthly contract that we pay in advance. We pay that 1 month in advance. So we're almost at the point where I think next month is when we'll actually pay June, so we'll be done for the fiscal year in the Public Defender's Office. So that is a snapshot in general. Also available on ECAP and on the Finance Department website is a listing of the transportation, other local option sales tax projects, as well as the other local option sales tax project, and those are detailed out by project. Also, in addition to that information, the OLOS summary by department is available for your viewing, as well as the revenues by line item. And I'll take any questions if council has them.
Looks like there's no questions at this time. Thank you.
Oh, and one other item that I wanted to make mention of from a prior meeting, you recall a couple of meetings ago, the coroner came to council requesting additional funding, and we were to come back with the amount. So I've spoken to the coroner's office, representatives in the coroner's office, and the amount that they are requesting that they need for the remainder of the fiscal year is $10,613.
Okay, and we're working with where that will come from, and we are making every effort to avoid the reserve fund. But we wanted to come back and give you that amount because he didn't have that amount at that time, and so we wanted to share that number with you.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, if there are no questions, that concludes my agenda.
Okay, we've got the Mayor Pro Tem, but we've got Councilor Garrett first, and then the Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. City Manager, I emailed Tiasha earlier today, and we had been talking with the Director of Traffic and Engineering. Several constituents are bringing up the speed bumps that have been removed along Lake Bottom.
Yeah.
I understand there was issues with the bolts.
Right.
But if we can't put those back, I'd like to know what the pricing would be to install speed bumps. We know we've had them there before. I know that's not something we have normally in the budget, but there are a lot of kids that run across the street because the park where the speed bumps were leads up right to the road.
Okay.
Whereas on the other side, Cherokee, at least you have the creek. But I'd just like to know the pricing and what we can do to calm traffic over there.
Okay, I'll get your response back on
Thank
that.
you.
All right, we've got the Mayor Pro Tem.
On the coroner's request, wasn't it primarily overtime hours?
He had a combination of several things. I think one was body bags, and I can't remember just right off, but he had 4 or 5 different things.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we've got Councilor Huff.
Mr. City Manager, I want to piggyback with Councilor Garrett because I'm getting a lot of calls for traffic calming.
Yeah.
So if I could just get with you, send me some information as far as letting them know what we can do, because we have one in particular on the first Bunker Hill Road going in.
Yes.
And I'll get you the exact address, but she lives up on a hill and she has to back out. I mean, it's constantly speeding. They're running into the lawns and some of our signs from time to time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. We have Councilor Woodson.
Yes, thank you. I just want to piggyback on the speed bumps too. I think that what we need to do, City Manager, is set up a meeting or a committee or a workshop to see how we're going to deal with this speeding issue that we have in our community. Because since we no longer do the speed bump, I remember when I went to Wisconsin to visit, I brought back a proposal that they did, and we thought that wouldn't work in Columbus, Georgia. But it seems that we're having that problem, because I know my street where I live, it's a racetrack. And because in my street, when you come off of South Lumpkin Road and you go to Avondale Road and you go down that road, you don't stop anymore till you get almost to the dead end. And I had a discussion about it and thought maybe we can put like stop signs, but I was told people won't stop. You know, there's so many reasons, so I think what we need to do is kind of form some way to see what can we do instead of not what we can't do, and see what options there are out there that we can use. What are other communities doing? You know, if SPIPA, and one of the response I got was that some residents like them and some don't.
Right.
It was various of things, but it's a problem that it's across Columbus itself. Because I have Walker Street, I got Hawthorne, I got my street, I got several, I got about 5 in my neighborhood alone that are runways. I call them speedways.
Well,
and we need to come up with something. I don't know if it's signage. Somebody said to me, maybe we need to put cameras, you know. We get officers out there and they're doing an awesome job because they got a lot. Matter of fact, one of the people that complained got a speeding ticket. So, and we did catch some drugs and some things on one of the stops. but it's a problem across the whole city. And we need to kind of find a solution or work on something.
Well, we've got a work session on May 29th, and I'll probably just address speed bumps
Okay.
at that work session. That'll be one of our topics.
Yeah, I think because I'm pretty sure, like Eric got a call, Bruce, Pops, myself, I'm pretty sure Baker gets it, I'm pretty sure Alan does. I think it's across the board. And I know because of our budget constraints, and some people like them, some people don't, we eliminate them, but there's an issue. And somehow it has to be addressed. And the community has some good ideas. I don't know if we can partner with some of the community or private, public funding. I don't know, but I think we can do something to kind of bring it to some conclusion.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
All right, we've got Councilor Barnes.
I just want the mayor and council to know that I'm going to be meeting with the city manager and with, I think, Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge and Donna Newman. That bridge on Reese Road is an imminent danger. I've had so many people, and I've been out there a number of times looking at that, and I've walked it. I'm not only talking about the drivable, but you even have where the pedestrian walk is slippery. The wood that's there leans to the side. It's a danger for those children. And so I just want to make this public that we need to, I know we're having plans, and that's fine, to do a bridge, and that's a good thing. But we need to have some type of interim safety measures on the bridge as it is now. I get 2 to 3 calls every week, and I'm out there, and I see. And not only is it a danger when you drive during the day, but at night when you cannot clear the side. And if there's a UPS truck coming, or of that size vehicle,
Yeah.
and someone, my concern, by the way, is for the young people.
Yeah.
When you're older, you know the judge, but some of the kids, because you will veer to the right, and it's a possibility, a strong one, a car's going to go over the side.
Yeah.
So we need to do, and I did talk to Pam, we had a conversation, but the reason I'm having this now is that we need to do something.
Yeah.
We do not need to wait. We need to sit down and do plans to go out there now and do something to make that bridge safe.
Yeah.
And that's my purpose of the meeting. And so I just wanted to bring that up. Everybody was airing. I want to bring that up because something needs to be done. Something concrete needs to be done now,
Yeah.
as far as that's concerned.
And we'll take a look at what we can do now, but Councilor Barnes, and I wanted Deputy City Manager Hodge to go ahead and talk about where we're going with it, but I understand you want
Yeah, I
to see something.
understand, and we had our
now.
conversation
Yeah.
that, I do know your plan, I
Yeah,
talked with Donna.
Right.
And that's fine, I appreciate that. But what I want,
I understand. I got you.
Yeah, but I'm going to repeat again. I want something done for the imminent hazard that it is now, something that we can do that will make that bridge safe.
Got you. Okay, with that, Madam Mayor, I just, for
Okay.
the public, I want them to know what's going on with that
Sure.
bridge.
Okay. All right, well, that concludes the city
Madam Mayor,
manager's.
I want Deputy City Manager Hodge to tell what's going on with that bridge.
We're so glad you're here, Pam. Please.
Briefly,
please.
just to let you know, the Reese Road Bridge is programmed in transportation plan. There's funding that's been allocated. We have selected an engineer. They're in the process of doing some conceptual work for us. We'll have met with them, and then they'll begin their design work and then move into construction after that. So it is under pre-design at this point, and we'll be moving forward with the replacement or the corrections to that bridge. But the bridge itself is not, it is an unsafe area on the pedestrian side, but the bridge itself is still stable. But there are corrections that need to be made, and we're going to meet with Councilor Barnes on site to address some of his concerns.
And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm letting some of the, I'm going to either go on Facebook or something, or let some of the citizens know. When we do that, for them to show up, because I've driven it, I'm out there a number of times a day because I get so many calls. And it does concern me, and I appreciate the plans that we have and going on. But I'm talking about, we need to do something now to make it safe. Okay.
All right, thank you. And that concludes the city manager's
That
agenda.
concludes my agenda.
All right, moving on. We've got the clerk of council.
Madam Mayor and members of council, on the clerk's agenda have several items of information. Application of a temporary street closing application for the Uptown River Fest, and there are several dates beginning with May 3rd through May 5th. Application to temporarily close Wren Street, Wood Hollow Drive to Melly Drive on Saturday for a birthday block party. Application to close Cooper Avenue from Winton Road to 10th Street and Oakview Avenue at Oakview, Garden Apartments on May 12th for Heritage Ball. Temporary street closing for Saturday, May 26th in connection with the Uptown Georgia Soccer Cup concert. Closing on May 27th for the Uptown Run Across Georgia. Have some biographical sketch of Dr. Sharon Kelly, Councilor Huff's nominee for the Cooperative Extension Board. Biographical sketch of Ms. Christy Nolat, Councilor Garrett and Whitson's nominee for the Animal Control Advisory Board. Biographical sketch for Ms. Sabine Stahl. This is the recommendation for the Animal ARC representative on animal control. And we submitted this information from Ms. Cindy Elliott regarding that rezoning on Edgewood Road. We received correspondence from the Region 6 Board for the reappointment of Mr. Edward Bonwell, for Ms. Annie Davis, Ms. Beverly Garland, and if we could get council motion for reappointment of these individuals.
Got a motion and second for approval. All those in favor, please state aye.
And also for Cynthia Smith in that motion as well.
We got a motion and second for approval. All those in favor, please state aye.
Minutes of various boards.
We've got a motion and second that the minutes be received. That's the minutes of the Board of Historic and Architectural Review, the Board of Tax Assessors, the Board of Water Commissioners, the Council Health Insurance Task Force, the Employee Benefits Committee, both in October and February, and the Planning Advisory Commission. All those in favor, please state aye.
On our board appointments, we've outlined what the current members are on the Animal Control Advisory Board. And also, as I indicated, Councilor Garrett and Woodson is nominating Ms. Christy Nolat.
We've got a motion and second for approval. We have several questions. We've got Councilor Thomas.
I don't have on that one. I have on the Ms. Stoll.
Okay, go ahead.
On Ms. Nolat, you need to bring that back at our next meeting to follow the process, nominated 1 week and confirmed the following week.
Okay, we've got Councilor Allen.
If I recall, council voted to, I guess, restructure the committee. I think we had 5 citizens, 2 veterinarians, and then 1 from Paws and 1 from Animal Rescue. So I'm looking at the list here, and I'm seeing citizen representatives, and there's 4 people that there are.
And then Ms. Nolat will be the 5th member when she's confirmed.
Well, previously, we had 2 citizens and then a variety of professionals, so we restructured. So who were the 2, which of these 4 were those 2 citizens?
It was the director, well, let me see.
Why don't we delay this, and maybe you and I can talk, and then, it seems to me there should be 2 citizens already listed that were already on the committee, and then there should be 3 vacancies. Because we went from 2 to 5 citizens. So there should be 3 vacancies for citizens, if my numbers are right. So that's why let's delay it, and you and I can get together.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Well, I had that same question that I asked the Assistant City Attorney, and she said there was only one additional citizen representative, but we can talk to.
We'll get her in the
Okay.
room with us.
We had a motion and
We'll get our
second, so I need
calculators out.
somebody to withdraw the motion. Who was the movant? Who was the movant?
Counselor Woodson.
Okay.
I'll withdraw it from next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then we've got Counselor Thomas.
On the, the licensed animal rescue organization representative, I went back and looked, and I guess I did not realize when we were looking at the minutes of this, I mean, not the minutes, the bylaws for this this group, that the director of the Public Works appoints somebody to this committee. I'm not sure that there's any other advisory committee where the director of the department that is being advised has an appointment to that committee. That is, however, what the bylaws say at this time. So at this time, I would like to request from the city attorney that the bylaws come back to us with that eliminated. I do not think it is proper for the head of the department that is being advised to name somebody to the committee.
All right, so it's been withdrawn and postponed, and then we've got a referral to the city attorney's office, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Okay, moving on with the other board appointments. The Board of Honor, we need a replacement for Ms. Beth Harris, who has resigned from the board, and these members must be former elected officials. On a building authority, we still need someone for Mr. Kel Jackson's seat, who has resigned. On the Civic Center Advisory Board, we have had some correspondence regarding the Columbus Hockey Association, so we're hopeful that at our next meeting, we'll be able to confirm Mr. Miller or someone else. On the Columbus Aquatics Commission, we've got these seats that will be, these terms will be ending next month. Mr. David Helmnick.
Got a motion and second. All those in favor, please
Well,
state aye.
Excuse me. We nominate 1 week, and then we'll bring back the following week
Oh, I'm
for
so sorry.
confirmation.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Sally Bradley is not interested in serving, so we'll, excuse me, we'll need a replacement for her. We're waiting to hear back from Mr. Rick Cravens. Ms. Barbara Cummings is interested in serving another term. And also, we've not heard back from Mr. Kelly yet. On the Columbus Golf Course Authority, Mr. Daniel Corpapper, he's not eligible. Councilor Woodson is nominating Mr. Kenneth Davis. We'll bring this back at our next meeting for confirmation. Mr. Gerald Miley. Okay. Mr. Mr. Jeff Blankenship is not eligible. We'll need a replacement for that. Kenneth Crumpler, okay. Oh, I know how to spell it. And then, okay. And Mr. Dayton Preston is, Reverend Rudolph Allen, he is not eligible to serve again. We'll need a replacement for that seat. Yes. On the Community Development Advisory Council, we still need a recommendation for District 3. Ms. Kendall is not eligible to succeed herself, as well as District 6. Mr. Don Cook is not eligible. Then we'll need a replacement for Mr. Gregory Smith, who represents District 10, who is not eligible. On our Comprehensive Plan Stakeholders Committee, we'll need a recommendation for District 5 as well as District 10. On the cooperative extension, Dr. Sharon Kelly can be confirmed.
Okay, we've got a motion and second for confirmation. All those in favor, please state aye.
On the Hospital Authority, we still need 2 additional nominees for these 2 seats of Mr. James Webster, as well as Mr. Edward Gaffney. On the Keep Columbus Beautiful Commission, these seats will be expiring at the end of June. Ms. Charlotte Irving represents District 1, is not eligible. And then we'll need someone for District 2, Ms. Brenda Pulaski, Mr. John DeLeo, he is not interested in serving another term. Ms. Karen Henderson is not eligible to serve another term. Ms. Christine Consoletti, she is eligible. We're waiting to hear back from her. Ms. Wanda Jenkins is not eligible to serve another term. Kenneth Lohr, he's interested in serving. Ms. Katie Franklin, she is interested in serving another term. Okay. And we're waiting to hear back from Ms. Courtney Lachlan. On our Liberty District Advisory Committee, we still need a representative for Districts 2.
We've got Counselor Davis with a nomination.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have to ask this question. I know that we've turned the Development of Liberty District, along with City Village and I guess other projects throughout the city, we've turned them over to the Development Authority, and I'm not sure, I don't think that on any of these other projects that we had in the past that we've had committees that would advise that the Development Authority has always been the arm or development arm of the city or the council, and that they always work directly with the council. Ms. City Manager, is it still, I'm trying to understand the purpose of an advisory board now that we've turned things over to the Development Authority.
Yes, the Liberty Stakeholder Committee would still be a viable committee, although we've turned over the process for an RFP to the Development Authority. They still need input from that committee through this council to the Development Authority related to the Liberty District plan, and so we cannot allow them to move forward with that without the committee's input and the city council's input. So
the order would be the advisory committee meets and gives input to the Development Authority, and then the Development Authority reports to us?
No, they would, as I see it, that committee would advise this council, and this council, the Development Authority.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Where were we, Madam Clerk?
I'm asking for recommendations for the Liberty District Advisory Committee. We need recommendations for District 4, District 10, okay. Okay. And then on the Employees Pension Board, these terms will be expiring the end of June. Mr. Roy Plummer, who represents the business community. Mayor, this is your appointment. He is not eligible to serve another term. Mr. Jack Kinsman, who represents the...
But I think it's my appointment, but I will renominate Mr. Kinsman. And I'll also renominate Ms. Cook.
Okay.
And can they be confirmed?
Yes, because these are mayor's appointments.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second for confirmation. All those in favor, please state aye. And I will get you somebody to replace Mr. Plummer. I didn't realize that was coming up.
And then I am waiting to hear back from the Recreation Advisory Board and we've already confirmed the Region 6 Advisory Council members. On our tree board, we are still needing a recommendation for Dr. Roger Brown as well as Ms. Cassie Renfro. And that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Okay. I thought Dr. Roundtree was on the Golf Authority, is he not? Okay.
That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
All right. Let's see, we have, yes, Counselor Barnes? Yes.
Just want to make an announcement. The Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation and Historic Columbus Foundation, this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they're going to have tours of Midtown, Overlook, and Dinglewood to highlight Columbus's historic district. If anyone's interested, they can go online at www.georgiatrust.org. So I wanted to put that out there so everybody know.
Great, thank you. All right, with that, we've had a request by the city attorney to enter executive session to discuss matters of personnel. So if I can get a motion?
Second.
In a second, and we're going to need some votes. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
All right, we're in executive session. Please clear the chambers. We're back on. All right, we are back out of executive session. No votes were taken. It was an executive. I need to call order. And what it is it's past 8:30 and everybody's hungry. So we have exited executive session on personnel. No votes were taken. And I've got a motion to adjourn in a second. All those in favor, please state aye. All right, we are adjourned. See you next time.